Pokémon, medicine and martial arts. Greetings, fellow multiversal adventurers. It's an honor to have you back in this saga that has us all hooked. Official channel statement: this story is 100% epic fiction, so please don't attempt real magic. The results aren't guaranteed and insurance won't cover it. The rights to this masterpiece belong entirely to its brilliant original author. We are just a barge sharing it with you. Do you want to keep being part of this amazing community? Join our ninja army of subscribers on YouTube and give this content a like. And for true fans, our Patreon has exclusive ninjutsu waiting for you. Chapter 351 Cooley. Sizzle, sizzle, gasps echoed. Yu stood in front of the aromatherapy gym, looking at Siba, who had come to watch the show, his eyes filled with resentment. In the previous battle, after countless consecutive bursts of explosive punches from the strange force, Suicune had finally, as expected, lost his ability to fight. But Suicune was fine. He simply closed his eyes swirling, and his incapacity was over. This was a tough situation for Yu, his master. Not only did he not gain anything, but he also had to endure a period of physical pain with his Suicune. Hey, I told you it wouldn't be that serious. I don't know what's wrong with you, right? And it's just a minor injury. And look, after we finished our Pokemon battle, you're forcing me to come to this aromatherapy gym with you to challenge you. Did I say anything? Siba, unable to bear Yu's aggrieved look, was the first to surrender, a look of resignation on his face. It turned out that after Suicune was incapacitated by the strange force, Yu had hurriedly retrieved it into his Pokeball. Then, along with Pikachu, he handed the two patients to Miss Joy. And of course, there was also Shiba's Riolu. After taking a break, Yu didn't bother to soothe the pain. After roughly confirming that he was fine, he immediately dragged Shiba along to challenge the aromatherapy gym. As for why he dragged Shiba along, it was because of the pain, coupled with the fact that he had been so focused on the previous battle, that he suddenly felt a little sluggish. And most importantly, he fainted. It was better to have someone carry him back to the Pokemon Center, right? He didn't expect the female staff at the aromatherapy gym to be so kind and caring if he fainted in the middle of a gym challenge. He was foolish to leave free labor unused. Besides, as a warrior of my generation, how can I show my childish behavior just because of a minor injury? Then, Ziba patted her exposed chest, her lips curled up, revealing a row of white teeth that even reflected a faint light. This attracted the attention of many passing girls, young and old, who turned around to look at her. Some girls were even so obsessed with her that they ran past Ziba, covering their red eyes with their hands. Rolling his eyes, Yu gritted his teeth at Shiba's innocent expression. He ignored the dull pain in his body and glared at Shiba fiercely. Haha, okay, you're right. But because of you, Pikachu and Suicune, two of my most capable Pokemon, are currently recuperating at the Pokemon Center. They need at least a night to recover. Hey, why are you blaming me again? This is clearly your own fault, okay? You could have come to the gym tournament later. You don't have to choose this time. Shiba quickly waved his hand. Uncle, don't put the blame on him. He looked like he didn't acknowledge it. You think I don't want to. But the exchange meeting is tight. If we start tomorrow, the walking distance from here to Fangshou Town is just right. So I can only take advantage of today to have time to participate in the gym tournament. Yu glared at Shiba in anger. And I had already decided who to send out. But you've completely disrupted my plans. I was planning to send out Suicune and Pikachu for a crushing victory, but now there's no way. Hib looked deeply embarrassed, scratching the back of his head with a goofy grin, not knowing what to say for a moment. Oh, I didn't mean to. It's just that you're so enlivened by the fight, you just can't stop. And don't think I don't know, I'm not the only one having a good time, you're probably enjoying it too. He spat under his breath and ignored Hiba. Then, taking a deep breath, he was the first to open the door to the aromatherapy gym. It was truly a building resembling something from ancient Japan. Once the doors opened, a dazzling display of beauty gathered inside, a dazzling array of girls, some even familiar, fashion models from yesterday's exhibition. As the door opened and Yu and Ziba entered, the chattering of the girls in the room ceased. One of them emerged, a figure who resembled a leader among them. Hello. I'm Yu, here to compete in the aromatherapy gym challenge. Is Miss My Xiu here? As the girl approached, Yu was extremely polite. After hearing Yu's introduction, the girl examined him for a few moments before smiling and bowing slightly. You must be the challenger, Yu, right? Please follow me. Miss My Xiu has been waiting for you." After giving a few words of advice to the other girls in the room, the girl walked forward, leading the way. While the aromatherapy gym might not appear large from the outside, it actually covered a vast area. Only by walking inside could one truly appreciate its immensity. Following the girl, Yu and Ziba passed through several corridors before arriving at an even more spacious room. Perhaps due to the room's location, the light was dim. But as the girls ushered Yu and Ziba in, the lights suddenly lit up, revealing a vast battle arena. Across from Yu, in the command area, My Xiu had already been standing there, as if she had been waiting for a long time. She was dressed as usual, primarily in pink and black, like a dancing butterfly, giving off the air of a lady from a noble family. "Miss My Xiu, I'm here for a gym match with gym badges at stake," Yu said with a smile, greeting My Xiu across from her. "Yu, you're finally here. I've been waiting for you for ages. I'm surprised the Fighting King is here too. Could it be that you're planning to challenge me to a gym match as well?" "Yes, I'm also very much looking forward to a match with Miss My Xiu," Yu said excitedly, completely ignoring the rest of My Xiu's words. "Haha, Miss My Xiu, you're joking. I just came here to accompany Yu's guys. I have no choice. Who told me that I was the most pitiful one and was robbed and forced to do hard labor?" Chapter 352 Aromatherapy Gym Tournament begins. Then, enough nonsense. Yu, let me see your strength. Do you have what it takes to receive the badge? My Xiu's demeanor shifted, losing her ladylike demeanor and instead imbued her with the oppressive air of a queen. "I couldn't ask for more. My Pokemon are incredibly powerful," Yu exclaimed confidently. My Xiu replied softly, nodding. Then, she turned her gaze to the girl who had led Yu and Ziba. After bringing Yu and Ziba into the arena, the girl had conscientiously stepped onto the field outside the center of the battle arena, holding a red and green referee flag and acting as referee. Now, the gym battle will begin, with gym badges at stake. Yu will challenge My Xiu, the gym trainer from the aromatherapy gym. Each team may use 2 Pokemon. When all Pokemon on one side are incapacitated, the other team wins. The referee announced the rules for the aromatherapy gym battle. While the referee was announcing the rules, Ziba had already found a spot on the audience and sat down. With his chin propped up on one hand, he watched the Pokemon battle about to begin with great interest. "Haha, is the gym tournament finally starting? Yu, let me get to know you better. Even though I just fought you, it still feels a little unsatisfying." Perhaps because of his formidable opponent, even though Ziba was already a regional league's fighting champion, when facing Yu, he always treated him as an equal. This wasn't just a comparison of martial arts skills, but also of Pokemon battles. As Ziba had said before, he only had the advantage of starting earlier than him. If they had started from the same starting point, the outcome would have been uncertain. Yu had only been traveling for a short time, but he had already earned the approval of Suicune, a legendary beast, and his Pikachu could even fight his Riolu to a draw. While possessing a legendary beast doesn't guarantee anything, as long as a trainer diligently cultivates their Pokemon, even a common Pokemon can eventually rival those legendary beasts. Take the Kanto region, for example. Everyone in the regional Pokemon League, including the champions and the Elite Four, fields ordinary Pokemon. Only the Dragon-type leader, Do, possesses a pseudo-god level Dragonite. Yet, even these possess the power to rival legendary beasts, even overwhelming some. So, as long as a trainer puts in the effort, even the weakest Pokemon will eventually rise to prominence. At least that's how Yu sees it, which is why he often says this: there are no useless Pokemon, only useless trainers. For another example, consider a recent TV Pokemon battle. The 2 trainers fielded one, the seemingly unremarkable Rattata, and the other, the Kanto region's legendary Dragonite. The audience believed this battle was a foregone conclusion, with Dragonite poised to triumph. After all, one was a mainland product, while the other was a pseudo-legendary beast from a different region. The 2 were practically incomparable. However, this particular matchup was a bit of a stretch. Early on, Dragonite dominated Rattata, but in the latter stages, Rattata secured a decisive victory with just 2 moves, Angry Fang and Killing Fang. This isn't to say legendary Pokemon are bad, it's simply that legendary Pokemon possess far greater talent and potential than ordinary Pokemon. After all, who wouldn't want to be disappointed in owning a legendary Pokemon? It's not only prestigious, but also incredibly beneficial. Thinking of this, Ziba's face was filled with envy, and he grumbled jealously, "Yiyu, this kid is definitely lucky. How long have you been traveling? And he's already collected so many rare Pokémon?" This morning, when Yiyu forced Ziba to join her for breakfast and a chat, she placed all her Pokémon in the backyard of the Pokémon Center for their own training. This allowed Ziba to see all of Yiyu's Pokémon. Seeing the stunted condition of the crabgrass, Ziba mocked Yiyu's poor training, saying he couldn't even raise Pokémon properly. But when he caught a glimpse of a golden Gyarados, even in the gloomy weather due to the early hours, radiating a golden glow and a size that was a head larger than an average Gyarados, his mouth opened wide in disbelief. After repeated confirmation from Yiyu, Ziba finally let out a sigh of amazement. If Amateur hadn't stopped him, this fighting king would have even considered challenging Golden Gyarados to a close combat, a so-called one-on-one duel. Oh my god. Are you kidding me? Yiyu, you're so lucky. Even though there's a shiny Ditto, Ditto is a rare Pokémon in its own right. And what's with that Charmeleon? Did it mutate? How did it become so awesome? It's even bigger than usual. Thinking back to his rather embarrassing behavior that morning, Ziba couldn't help but slap his forehead, his cheeks slightly red. It was so embarrassing. How could he have lost control and acted like a jerk? After all, he was a fighting king who had to be in an alliance. But then again, those Pokémon Yiyu had captured were truly more bizarre and powerful than the last. Of course, I'm still the stronger one right now. I can take on them all with just one monster. Ziba thought narcissistically. At this moment, Yiyu had no idea about Shiba's complicated thoughts. If he knew, he would probably just smile and then the two would probably start arguing again. But now Yiyu's attention is all on the gym battle. After listening carefully to the gym battle rules, the gym battle of Aromatherapy Gym is also about to begin. The challenger will attack first. During this period, the gym trainers cannot change Pokémon, but the challenger can. The referee girl waved the referee flag in her hand and supplemented the rules of the battle again. Let's start. As the host, I will send out the Pokémon first. Come on, Pink Fragrance. Chapter 353 Gyarados vs Pink Frost. Go ahead, Pink Fragrance. As the Pokéball opened, a pink, bird-like Pokémon appeared. What else can I say? As expected of a beautiful girl, the Pokémon she photographed were also adorable. But I wonder if she's used that much, since it's still a gym leader's Pokémon. After seeing Maxiu send out Pink Fragrance, Yiyu didn't rush to send out his own Pokémon. Instead, he pulled out his Pokédex to search. Actually, Yiyu didn't want to do that. If Pikachu or Suicune were there, he could just go for it without a second thought. After all, strength gives you confidence. But now, these two Pokémon, whom Yiyu relied on, were both lying in hospital beds at the Pokémon Center after their battle with Shiba today, receiving the careful care of Miss Joy or Chandler. That left him with only his high-powered Gyarados. And of course, there was Charmeleon, who had just recently reached the rank of Quasi-King. So, with a conviction that knowing both oneself and the enemy is the key to victory, Yiyu diligently perused the Pokémon Pokédex in his hand. Pink Xiaozhi, the perfume Pokémon. It exudes an intoxicating aroma once warmed, and its scent changes depending on the fruit it has consumed. Suddenly, for the first time, Yiyu felt that the Pokédex was incredibly ineffective. What kind of introduction was this? It was a bunch of nonsense that didn't get to the point. Though cautious by nature, Yiyu glanced at the dancing pink Xiaozhi, then at the Pokédex in his hand. Thinking it was a good idea to overkill, Yiyu decisively hurled a Pokéball. Gyarados then, a ferocious-looking Gyarados appeared on the field, accompanied by a powerful roar. Oh. That's Yiyu's personality. He actually sent out Gyarados right from the start. Sitting in the middle seat, Ziba stroked his chin with interest, displaying the aura of a fighting king as he began analyzing the situation. Pink, Gyarados' imposing entrance, coupled with its previously ferocious expression, made the adorable pink Xiangxiang flutter in the air, yet she didn't even flinch, looking as if she was about to flee. Maxiu couldn't care less about Yiyu's surprise at sending out Gyarados, and immediately began to soothe the pink Xiangxiang. Just kidding. A fright like that from Gyarados wouldn't leave any psychological scars, but just the fear alone was enough for Maxiu to find a way to calm him down. This was no joke. In all her time as a gym trainer, she had never heard of a gym leader's Pokémon being frightened into fleeing before the battle. If word of this got out, It would be truly humiliating. How could my Xiu survive in the world of gym trainers in Kalos, or even in the entire Japanese world? She'd probably become a laughingstock. Fen Xiang, calm down. You've been a battle-hardened Pokemon with me. You've seen everything. True to her gym trainer status, Fen Xiang's mental fortitude was truly excellent. With my Xiu's words of comfort, Fen Xiang's composure gradually settled. Fen Xiang, no longer evasive, summoned her courage to confront Gyarados, her face defiant. Very good, Fen Xiang, that's how it is, my Xiu encouraged. She then turned her gaze to Yu across from her, still maintaining her ladylike demeanor and appearing incredibly polite. Yu, you're the challenger, you attack first. In that case, I won't hold back. Gyarados, use water cannon. Perhaps it was because water cannon was so effective, but now, whenever Yu's Pokemon had water cannon, their first command would be to use it in a Pokemon battle. That's a pretty good idea, after all. Water cannon is a truly powerful water-type move, and its power is quite impressive. Yu, on the other hand, believed that ordering it out initially served as a test. If it was a high-level Pokemon, it would be a good way to test its strength and prepare for the upcoming battle. But if it was a low-level Pokemon, Yu would just take it in seconds. He was too weak, so who could blame him? Such a powerful move right from the start? It's really a bit surprising, my Xiu chuckled, flicking her wide sleeves. In that case, Fen Xiang, use Protect. Oh. Right from the start? The ultimate defense, is it? But Protect is only 100% effective at first, it's only effective at a very short range. What are you going to do next, my Xiu? Seeing that water cannon had been blocked, Yu wasn't discouraged. Instead, he became thoughtful. There's nothing we can do. Who told Ryujin to be so strong from the start? My Xiu chuckled in response. Without giving Yu time to think, my Xiu immediately ordered, Fen Xiang, use Trick Space, then Screwball. Fen Xiang screamed, and Trick Space was unleashed. Suddenly, a rectangular energy space appeared across the battlefield, but it was fleeting, vanishing as if it had vanished into thin air. Then, like a spinning top, Fen Xiang slammed directly into the massive body of Gyarados. It felt like an egg hitting a stone. After all, the size of the two opponents presented an unbridgeable chasm. However, Yu didn't dare underestimate her. Seeing Powdered Shuang's spiral ball approaching Gyarados, he quickly ordered, Gyarados, use your tail to block it. Despite its massive size, Gyarados showed no signs of slowness. Instead, its reactions were incredibly swift. After all, Yu's Pokemon were all focused on speed and stamina. A fierce glint flashed in Gyarados' eyes, and its tail, like a whip, lashed out at the incoming spiral ball. It looked as if a successful strike would have dealt Powdered Xiang a home run, like hitting a baseball, effectively knocking her out of the game. However, reality was harsh, and Gyarados ultimately returned home disappointed. Chapter 354 Dragon Nemesis. Zizzy like a spinning top, the spiral ball finally collided with a dragon's tail. It wasn't the home run she'd imagined. Surprisingly, despite Fen Xiang's small stature, her power was truly impressive. Furthermore, the spiral ball's power is magnified if it's slower than the opponent's. Fen Xiang's spiral ball was truly formidable. In the clash with the Iron-Hard Dragon's tail, if the air were drier, sparks would have been flying. Unsurprisingly, the spiral ball was blocked by Gyarados, my Xiu said, a little distressed, tapping her chin with a finger as thin as a Lukong, as if she were pondering a strategy. If that's the case, we can't keep pestering Powdered Xiang. My Xiu looked about to give in, then suddenly changed her tone. Powdered Xiang, continue your spiral ball. Use the spinning rolling spiral ball. After my Xiu gave the order, Powdered Xiang's spiral ball, locked in a stalemate with a dragon's tail, suddenly became softer, transforming its original strength into flexibility. Using spiral ball to spin, she first slowly dissipated the force from her body. Then, taking advantage of the moment when Gyarados' momentum prevented her from retracting its tail, she launched a spiral ball while charging along Gyarados' tail. That's fine, but it seems a bit embarrassing. Watching Powdered Xiang's spiral ball, Lulu, unstoppable, followed Gyarados' body, charging straight at its ferocious head. This close-range attack left Gyarados helpless, unable to find her way to dislodge the rolling object. Without Yu's command, Gyarados' body swung automatically, but Fan Xiang, who was using Spiral Ball, seemed to have a sticky nature. No matter how Gyarados twisted, it refused to fall. The speed of the rolling movement even increased, from the lower abdomen to almost reaching the head. What kind of fighting style is this? Why does it feel so helpless? And Spiral Ball can actually be used like this. Yu was enlightened, truly proving the saying that no gym trainer who made it to the top of the ladder was a pushover. He had initially thought that sending out a near-king level Gyarados would be enough to crush the opponent, but he hadn't expected the situation to turn out this way. While not at a disadvantage, he was already on the defensive. His Spiral Ball can indeed be used like this. But that's only for my powdered delight. Ma Xiu, with a confident and elegant demeanor, smiled sweetly, observing the unfolding situation as she responded to Yu's question. As Ma Xiu had said, only Powdered Delighted could pull off this type of Spiral Ball attack. Due to its small size and agility, it could easily dodge and neutralize other Pokemon's attacks, especially powerful ones. From Yu's perspective, it was a Tai Chi-style attack, using softness to overcome hardness, yet imbued with a sense of dominance and fierceness. Who would have thought that Powdered Delighted, after using Spiral Ball just now, could actually hold its own against Gyarados' more powerful tail? Though it wasn't for long, the power and ferocity of the attack were palpable. Bang! With a muffled thud, the Spiral Ball struck Gyarados' head. Gyarados stumbled, falling backwards. Another muffled thud echoed, but this one felt incredibly heavy. But for Gyarados, this was likely just a lot of noise, little action. After all, its exceptional defense was no joke. Gyarados quickly climbed back to its feet, its eyes filled with fury. It was being toyed with by a creature smaller than Pikachu. It was unbearable. Gyarados, Yu's command was gone. With a long roar, it unleashed a tornado, blowing directly towards Powder Fragrance. While Gyarados didn't possess the dragon attribute, its temper was no less than that of a dragon-type Pokemon. It could even be argued that there were even more gentle dragon-type Pokemon. But anything with the word dragon in its name was considered a formidable entity. Not to mention the inherent power of dragon types, there are very few types that can counter them, dragon and ice types, and now, of course, a newly discovered fairy type. Beyond that, all other types are incredibly violent. The tornado lived up to its name, whirring and whirring as it swept towards Powdered Scent. However, as mentioned earlier, while dragon-type Pokemon are certainly powerful, they also have their counters. Besides ice-type Pokemon, that's fairy-type Pokemon. Facing Powdered Scent, a pure fairy type, Gyarados' tornado had minimal damage, practically negligible. After all, according to some Pokemon researchers, fairy types are almost immune to dragon-type abilities. Therefore, after this attack, unleashed by Gyarados in anger, Powdered Scent didn't even try to dodge the next dragon-type tornado. She was like a pine tree, seemingly unfazed by a violent storm. I see. Dragon-type skills have no effect on fairy-type Pokemon? There are so many types of Pokemon. I didn't realize there was even a fairy-type Pokemon. You also noticed that there was something wrong with Fan Xiang's behavior while being hit by the tornado. As the saying goes, if you don't understand something, ask Baidu, and if you don't understand something about Pokemon, ask the Pokédex. Yu had taken the Pokédex that had been put away in his hands before. He looked at the information on it and nodded from time to time, looking thoughtful. This fairy-type Pokemon really deserves the title of Dragon-type Nemesis. But since the Dragon-type skills are useless, let's try the power of other type skills. Yu quickly adjusted his battle plan in his mind. Just as Yu was thinking, Ma Xiu's sweet voice rang out, Yu, you are too slow. You can't be so slow in battle. Fan Xiang uses Magic Flash. Chapter 355 The Beautiful Fairy's Trap. What? Not good. Yu, silently grumbling, finally came to his senses. His previous tactical plan faded, and he hastily ordered Gyarados to defend. Gyarados, get out of the way quickly. If you can't, use Freeze Beam to block it. However, he was still a step too late. Due to the rush, Gyarados was still a step behind in receiving the command and unleashing its abilities. Fan Xiang's body shone with a powerful force, sweeping directly towards Gyarados. The dazzling light was filled with lethality. The Magic Flash successfully struck Gyarados, inflicting considerable damage. After all, it wasn't a physical attack, so the damage was still considerable. If it were a physical attack, Gyarados wouldn't have had to fear it, thanks to its formidable physique. Fortunately, though Gyarados had dragon-like characteristics and resembled a dragon, it ultimately lacked dragon-type attributes, so the damage wasn't as significant. Damn it. Let me see what counters fairy types. Steel and poison? In that case, Gyarados uses Iron Head, unlike its weaker, unevolved Magikarp, which only possessed the meager skills of Water Splash and Charge. After evolving into Gyarados, not only did its combat power skyrocket, but it also acquired a wide range of skills and possessed a vast array of attributes. Gyarados, a deafening roar echoed, and Gyarados' head was enveloped in a faint white light. Then, its body suddenly sprang forth, undeterred by its massive size. At this moment, Gyarados was like an extremely agile arbor. Its speed was truly swift, and Yu wore a confident smile, as if powder fragrance had already been struck by Gyarados' incredibly effective Iron Head. However, just as Iron Head was about to reach powder fragrance, a replay of its earlier impressive moves was repeated. As if anticipating Gyarados' attack trajectory, just as Gyarados was about to approach, Xiaozhi executed a dazzling turn, getting incredibly close to Gyarados, yet it still dodged. Huh? She even dodged that. Her luck is way too good. Yu was stunned. It was luck that had favored Xiaozhi, allowing her to avoid Gyarados' potentially fatal blow. Unconvinced, Yu gave another command. I don't believe it. Gyarados, use Iron Head technique. Gyarados instantly transformed into a whack-a-mole machine. Wherever Xiaozhi's bubbles appeared, Gyarados would unhesitatingly swing its massive head and charge at him. However, the results were disappointing. It didn't even hit Xiaozhi once, not even a hair on his head. Every time it nearly made contact, Xiaozhi would, just like the first time, try to dodge or perform a dazzling turn. It can fly anyway. As long as its wings are intact and there's room, it can fly 360 degrees. What's going on? It feels like the other party already knows Gyarados' moves. Logically, Gyarados should be faster than Powdered, but why is it constantly being dodged? Yu stared in bewilderment at the Gyarados, which continued to attack, only to be repeatedly dodged by Powdered. Frowning, Yu began to observe secretly, trying to find any clues, to see if he could find the reason why Gyarados kept missing and was even slower than Powdered. His eyes scanned the surroundings, focusing most on Powdered. Suddenly, as if realizing something, Yu's eyes lit up, and he opened the Pokémon guide, which had been closed, again, and the smile on his face grew wider. Haha, I see, that's what's going on. He already noticed? That's right, this is the beautiful fairy's trap. Even if you know, how will you break it, Yu? It's really exciting, my Xiu chuckled, not at all alarmed by Yu's discovery of her secret. Instead, she became intrigued. A beautiful fairy's trap? That's quite fitting. It seems I was really careless. Is that the unnoticed trick dimension? Forcefully perking up, Yu recalled the description of trick dimension in the Pokémon Encyclopedia. Trick dimension creates a bizarre space where Pokémon used within it can attack faster than their opponent's Pokémon. He missed my Xiu, then you can wait and see. It's just trick dimension, right? Watch me break it in a matter of minutes. Yu's face regained its confidence. Wonderful, truly magnificent. I didn't expect Yu to be able to eat something else in a row. But looking at the look on that kid's face, this is the prelude to his power. Zip rubbed his chin, his face full of anticipation. He didn't care at all whether Yu could win the gym battle and successfully obtain the badge. What a joke. Although in Japan, he could be considered Yu's elder and senior, but in front of Yu, Ziba treated him as an equal. If Yu won the gym battle, that would be fine. If he lost, Ziba would probably be thinking about how he would mock Yu later. Yu ignored Ziba completely, and there was no time to pay attention. Gyarados, pray for rain. Pray for rain is indeed a transformational skill used by Pokémon. Even though the roof of the temple provided protection, it didn't affect the use of the skill. Dark clouds quickly gathered in the sky, and then more and more. A gentle drizzle began to fall. Her rain-beg skill continued, but it had no effect on Xiaoxiang. Though puzzled, my Xiu wasn't one to sit still and wait for death. She gave the order to attack again. Xiaoxiang, use lightning flash to approach Gyarados, then use spiral ball. Fen Xiang swiftly executed Lightning Flash, closing in on Gyarados with incredible speed. Because her Rain Beg skill had just ended, Gyarados was still relaxed. With Spiral Ball, Fen Xiang didn't hesitate, once again employing a close quarters attack. Chapter 356 Tornado. Gyarados, hit once again by Pinky's Spiral Ball, Gyarados cried out in pain. But this time, unlike the last time, he didn't lose his mind and unleash any random skills in a rage. Instead, after being hit by the Spiral Ball, he quickly climbed to his feet, regained his composure, and glared menacingly at Pinky. He looked as if he'd strike if she dared to move. However, due to the dimensional space, Gyarados was ultimately disappointed. Although faster than the opponent, he couldn't withstand the opponent's enhanced skills, and his attacks were even faster than his own. Don't worry, Gyarados. The fun has just begun. Use Storm with all your might. A light drizzle fell, but it didn't slow Pinky's attack in the slightest. The Spiral Ball spun, forming a protective shield like air currents. The raindrops landed on Pinky, being flung outwards. The vacuum of air, spinning like a gyroscope, was like a powerful shield for attack and defense. Just as Fen Xiang was about to approach Gyarados, a powerful gust of air suddenly began to spread outward, originating from Gyarados. The wind grew stronger, the current swirling faster and faster. Fen Xiang, who had previously had no trouble advancing in the rain, was now directly hindered, feeling as if she couldn't move forward at all. The gusts of air, blasted by the storm, formed like a hurricane shield, blocking Fen Xiang's offensive. If one could have looked down from above, one would have been surprised to find that the battle scene resembled two spinning tops colliding, but without the aid of a strike ring, there was no violent collision with sparks flying. Instead, the air currents continued to spread outward. The miniature tornadoes formed by the storm, with a pinpoint pressure, fiercely pressed against and blocked Fen Xiang's gyro-like attack. You've got some skills. You're worthy of being the kind of guys I admires. Ma Xiu's beautiful eyes flickered, and she chuckled softly, her hands covering her mouth in a very ladylike manner, praising her. But if that's all it takes, it won't bother my Fen Xiang in the slightest. At this moment, Ma Xiu became playful again, winking triumphantly at you. Fen Xiang, continue using the Spiral Ball. Spin it in the direction of the storm. Fen Xiang, who had been spinning counterclockwise with the wind, paused in mid-air at Ma Xiu's command. Despite the danger of being blown backward, she instantly changed her direction and began a new offensive. As expected, following Ma Xiu's instructions, Fen Xiang's Spiral Ball charge became much smoother. She even relaxed her body, following the wind's direction, to create a sense of power. Not only did the speed of the Spiral Ball attack increase, but it also accelerated its frequency. If Fen Xiang's previous Spiral Ball was like a spinning top that had been launched for a long time, then the current one was like a newly launched one, a spinning top at its peak. Oh, too clever. You've lost the game instead of the chicken. Watching the battle from a distance, Ziba acted as if nothing had happened, apathetically unconcerned. Even watching this scene, Shui used several idioms in rapid succession, appearing incredibly excited. If it weren't for the conditions and the fear of embarrassment, Ziba would have wanted to dance to express his feelings at that moment. After all, seeing Yiyu being defeated was such a delight. Gyarados. Use your tail to block it. Yiyu could only hastily set aside his planned strategy and hurriedly ordered Gyarados to defend. This time, Gyarados reacted with remarkable speed. With a sudden thrust of its massive tail, it was bathed in a shimmering emerald glow of dragon scales, and then swiftly flung itself away. He wanted to hide a home run like he had at the beginning, knocking Fen Xiang out once again. However, this time, the Spiral Ball, fueled by the storm, truly caught Gyarados off guard, and due to his own carelessness, the power of this Spiral Ball was immense. It was no longer a baseball, but a soccer ball being kicked towards Gyarados. Perhaps because of this, Gyarados suffered greatly from this Spiral Ball. Under the force of the Spiral Ball, Gyarados' tail actually began to fall back, and due to inertia, it even pulled back and hit Gyarados. His entire body fell backward, hitting the ground hard. Fortunately, the battleground inside the gym was now filled with rain, which had already become less painful. Yiyu was secretly thankful. Fortunately, despite the dragon and its name, Gyarados didn't possess any dragon attributes. Otherwise, that single blow from its dragon tail would have significantly reduced its health. Fortunately, Fen Xiang Dao even didn't press his advantage. Seeing his initial success, he retreated 1,000 miles, attempting to escape Gyarados' attack range. But would he succeed so easily? Yu licked his lips, a smile forming in his excitement. Gyarados, don't let it get away. Storm, the current storm, compounded by the previous one, suddenly erupted into a raging gust of wind throughout the battlefield. If the building weren't sturdy enough, no unscrupulous vendor would dare cut corners on the league's official gym. The roof would have been blown off by now. The combination of rain beckoning and storm was truly incredible, a true tornado. Kyu, originally harmless, was now combined with storm, a skill known for its wide area damage, to unleash its power. Even without Maxiu's command, Fen Xiang immediately unleashed her spiral ball, spinning in the direction of the wind, but it proved completely ineffective. At that moment, enveloped by this terrifying tornado, Fen Xiang, still using her spiral ball and preparing to escape, was like a small boat in a storm, facing imminent destruction. She had no resistance, no solution. It was like facing the wrath of nature. Even the most formidable human could be destroyed at any moment. Chapter 357, Serena's New Beginning. Two flowers bloom, each showcasing its own beauty. Just as Yu was challenging the aromatherapy gym, the battle was in full swing. Meanwhile, Serena, having adjusted her mindset, reached the finals of her first Pokémon show competition. Returning to the stage once again, Serena, after initial adjustments, seemed to be in order. During the BA4 competition, she effortlessly secured a spot in the group stage. It's worth noting that Air didn't participate in this Pokémon show competition. As she had previously stated, she had already earned the 3 princess keys required to compete in the Triple Crown Satellite Tournament, so she needed to give others a chance to shine while also enjoying herself as a spectator. This was Air's truest reflection, but it also reflected her confidence. Air was utterly confident in her Pokémon show, never feeling the prospect of losing. Perhaps this was why Air always took first place in the Pokémon show. Even before the stage began, she was filled with confidence, and in this state, Air was unstoppable. At that moment, Air and Xiaoxu sat side by side in the audience. Xiaoxu cradled Vulpix in her arms, while Air, like her teacher Yashio, rested her hand on her cheek as she watched Serena, who had just taken the stage after entering the finals, and 2 other contestants. The stage was still occupied by a flounder-making competition. Serena sent out her only 2 Pokémon, Fiery Fox and Eevee, to help her make a flounder. Notably, Serena's other 2 opponents were a mature older woman and a sweet-looking young woman. The older woman sent out Pokémon, Ursa Major and Guriki, while the young woman sent out Farfetch'd and Bullfrog. Well, just the names of them looked like they could be stewed. After taking the stage and bowing once more, at the referee's command, the 3 women, aided by their Pokémon, began making flounders. Serena beamed with confidence, growing more and more confident as the competition progressed. She was a completely different person from when she first started participating in the Pokémon show. Her calm command, her fluid movements, and her seamless coordination with Fiona and Eevee all demonstrated Serena's growth. Watching the busy figures on the stage and Serena's heartfelt smile, Air, watching intently from the audience, also smiled heartily. While feeling happy for Serena, she also began to look forward to facing Serena again in the Triple Crown Satellite. After all, Air was both a mentor and a friend to Serena. She was at least a third of the credit for Serena's impressive performance. Serena was great, that's all. Let's see what was so amazing about this promising young talent that the teacher admired. Let's put that aside for a moment. Serena, completely unaware that Air had secretly identified her as her most desired opponent, was completely lost. At this moment, she was concentrating on crafting several small, delicate pomfrets on the table before her. In Serena's hands, crafting pomfrets became a work of art, her smooth movements imbued with beauty, like a series of beautiful dance moves. Humming the tune Yu had taught her, a sweet smile on her face, she coordinated with a tacit understanding between Firefox and Eevee. With 2 pets, they were completely absorbed in this moment, oblivious to the surroundings, enjoying themselves to the fullest, their rhythmic flow. Firefox, use your claws to help me cut these fruit. Eevee, get me a spoon. And that packet of cream over there. Thank you. Commands were issued without pause, as if no thought was needed. On both sides, They were worthy of being finalists. The older sister and the younger girl were equally impressive, one so fast that she had already begun decorating the pomfret. It's worth noting that the guriki in the elder sister's hand, don't let its muscular appearance fool you into thinking it's brainless. It's truly thoughtful, each movement gentle and effortless, each one appearing incredibly natural. It's clear this guriki is a seasoned kitchen hand, perhaps even a housewife's best helper. Perhaps because of this, there's no sense of dissonance at all. Of course, if the wooden Yiyu were here to witness this, he'd undoubtedly exclaim, 6. The Pokémon Barbie, meanwhile, Serena and the other 3 finalists were fiercely competing. Turning back to Yiyu, the situation here was no less intense than Serena's. The combined power of his rain and storm skills created a tornado that crushed Xiaoxiang with unstoppable force. Unsurprisingly, she lost her fighting ability, her eyes spinning as she collapsed to the ground. But the situation wasn't over yet. Even after the tornado had passed, the rain continued to fall, drop after drop hitting Xiaoxiang relentlessly. A strong gust of wind would occasionally send the now incapacitated Xiaoxiang flying, sending her tumbling across the ground. Wow! That's impressive. You managed to break my beautiful fairy trap with such brutal tactics. How should I put it? That's really the way you boys fight. Ma Xiu was astonished. She had thought she could win this match with just her magic space, only to be crushed by the opponent's sheer force. It can't be helped. I can't let Miss Ma Xiu and Xiaoxiang force me into such a mess. Yiyu responded with a similar smile, then showered the Gyarados on the battlefield with praise. The Gyarados, upon receiving its master's praise, erupted in excitement, roaring continuously. Gyarados, haha, this is so satisfying. I don't know how much of my limelight has been stolen because of Pichu and Suicune. Seriously, I finally got sent out to fight by my master, I won't lose so easily. I have to win a few more games before I can claim the title. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 358 Take Back. Gyarados, haha, this is so satisfying. I don't know how much of my limelight has been stolen because of Pikachu and Suicune. Seriously, I finally got sent out to fight by my master, I won't lose so easily. I have to win a few more games before I can claim the title. It seems Gyarados is so frustrated that he can't help but blurt out his innermost thoughts. If Pikachu were here, he'd definitely roll his eyes and ignore the fool. Who knows when the master will send him out to fight again. So, as the master says, drink while you can. I must make the most of this fight today. Gyarados made a secret decision, ignoring his injuries, regrouping as if waiting for his opponent to appear. Well done, Gyarados, a good start, Yiyu praised with a smile on his face. Gyarados hearing its master's praise once again, Gyarados was thrilled. If it could speak, it would surely roar to the heavens, it's not hard, not at all. If something like this ever happens again, don't forget me, and be sure to call me back. Despite its inner excitement, Gyarados' face remained gleeful, its large eyes narrowed to slits. Its spirit was high, its massive head shaking like a rattle. Yiyu rubbed his chin, a look of deep thought, watching Gyarados, who seemed to be expressing that he was fine and could continue fighting. But in just 2 breaths, Yiyu decisively raised his arm, a Pokéball still in his hand. Gyarados was instantly enveloped in a red glow, and then, with lightning speed, it vanished from the battlefield, evidently retracted into its Pokéball. Gyarados the moment the Pokéball was taken back, Gyarados let out a few cries of grievance. If Pikachu was present at this moment, he would definitely understand what Gyarados wanted to say, as if to say, no. Master, how could you do this? You deceived my feelings, the script was clearly not written like this. Yiyu's sudden action stunned Ma Xiu, and even Ziba, who was watching the game, was a little surprised. Oh. He actually took Gyarados back. Doesn't Yiyu intend to press on with a victory? This is not his character? Is there something fishy? Questions came out of Ziba's mouth in confusion. Ma Xiu, her opponent, felt the same way. She tilted her head, but she couldn't help but smile. That's quite a surprise. I thought you'd rely on that Gyarados to win the gym battle. Honestly, your Gyarados is incredibly powerful. It shouldn't be a problem fighting higher-level enemies. Ziba and Maxiu were filled with questions, baffled. Why was the Gyarados being recalled when it wasn't still in good condition? In Pokemon battles, trainers typically wait until a Pokemon is completely incapacitated before swapping it out. This is usually done when the stats are unfavorable or the power levels are unequal. However, looking at Yu's Gyarados, while it had sustained minor injuries from the previous battle, they were minor injuries that wouldn't significantly impact the rest of the battle. Why was it recalled for no apparent reason? Furthermore, some trainers believe that if a Pokemon wasn't recalled after defeating another, continuing the battle, it was a significant advantage. For example, in a 6-on-6 Pokemon battle, if one Pokemon wins first, it can use its low HP to deplete the remaining intact Pokemon, even resorting to a mutually assured destruction strategy to increase the chances of victory for the following Pokemon. Is that so? I kind of know what Gyarados is thinking. It's incredibly eager to fight, but for some reason, I've been sending it out less and less lately. As a Pokemon Master, Yu knows his Pokemon well and could just read Gyarados' mind just now. This was actually the reason for Yu's initial hesitation. Lately, in order to better coordinate with his Pokemon, Yu has been sending out Pikachu and Suicune in almost every battle. These two are currently his starter Pokemon, allowing them to get used to each other. Of course, as Yu's current Pokemon is at the bottom of his arsenal, Crabbert also has several family members to care for. After all, in Yu's view, since you've convinced a Pokemon, you must be responsible for it. Responsibility here doesn't just encompass trivial matters like eating, drinking, and defecating, it also includes Pokemon battles. Yu believes that trainers who capture numerous Pokemon are responsible, especially those who have just received their Pokemon and are embarking on a journey. With a fresh mindset, they tend to fall in love with every Pokemon they see, often embracing the saying, "I love every Pokemon I see." They capture anything they like, regardless of species or number. But how many of these captured Pokemon are actually trained by their trainers, or even sent into battle, let alone compete in official arenas like league gyms or large-scale tournaments? How many Pokemon become mere figurines, even those with good potential being overshadowed by this, like the story of a talented trainer and a skilled horse? Of course, for trainers who aren't purely focused on combat, capturing numerous Pokemon for companionship or other purposes doesn't necessarily mean they're completely overshadowed. But that was what others thought. Yu was deeply opposed to this kind of behavior. He even thought that those trainers who captured Pokemon and then released them were often more likely to do so. After all, it wouldn't waste the Pokemon's youth. Who knows, right after you released a Pokemon, it might just meet a trainer it liked, and from then on, a new Pokemon's magical life would begin. Chapter 359 The Inner Thoughts of the Fire Dinosaur. After all, just like humans, Pokemon are flesh and blood beings, subject to birth, aging, sickness, and death, and have their own lifespans. And as a certain great man once said, dating without the goal of marriage is simply a hooligan. Yu could then righteously declare that any trainer who doesn't strive to showcase their Pokemon's potential is a worthless trainer. You've already wasted their youth. This is why Professor Oak always complains about Yu's small number of Pokemon. After all, Yu is a very responsible trainer, committed to every Pokemon. Another reason is that he wants to balance the strength of his team and doesn't want a multi-tiered system. Of course, those who anchor the team are also indispensable, and they are the ones he prioritizes. While there may be a slight degree of favoritism, he always treats them equally. Yes, I want every Pokemon in my team to have a chance to showcase their strength, Yu replied to Maxiu and Shiba. Maxiu nodded thoughtfully and said nothing more. After all, it was someone else's business, and it would be rude to continue to dwell on it. As for what Shiba in the audience thought, that was unknown. He had been acting like an interested spectator from the beginning, even sporting an enigmatic smile. If that's the case, then I'll send out the Pokemon first. Without waiting for Yu to reply or refuse, Maxiu gracefully tossed a Pokeball into the arena. Come out, fairy. Oh. Is that the fairy from yesterday? Another fairy-type Pokemon. But, Miss Maxiu, you really think highly of me, sending out a king-level Pokemon right away? Yu glanced at the fairy and nodded subconsciously, his mind unsettled. There's nothing I can do. Yu-Jun is so powerful. It's like I'm at my wit's end. I'm left with no other options but to send out the fairy, My Xiu replied with a faint smile. But without much hesitation, Yu pulled out a confidently prepared Pokeball. He held the Pokeball in his hand, making no attempt to exchange it with the others on his belt. Haha, then I'm going to ask for your advice. Yesterday, after watching Miss Maxiu and Sheba's battle, I've been itching to compete with the fairy elves. Yuyu's expression once again radiated excitement, and he tossed a Pokeball towards him. Bang! As the Pokeball opened, a Pokemon enveloped in red light appeared. Liza a Charmeleon, unlike any other Charmeleon, appeared majestically on the field. The flame patterns on its body clung to it like armor. The flame pattern on its forehead, in particular, appeared incredibly lifelike, as if a flame were constantly dancing. Charmer is decided on you. Taking advantage of this gym battle, I'd like to test the strength of Charmer, who just reached a Quasi-King level. Your Charmer looks a little different. Indeed, it's different. I think it's mutated, Yu admitted decisively. It wasn't a secret. Then, as if a thought struck him, Yu suddenly said, but by the way, Miss My Xiu, this Sylph isn't your most valuable Pokemon, is it? I can only say that Sylph is my very first Pokemon. My Xiu smiled, but didn't directly answer Yuyu's question, seeming a bit ambiguous. But after thinking about it, Yu understood. Everyone has their little secrets, especially as a gym trainer, a protector of a city. How could they have only one king-level Pokemon? That gym would be incredibly underpowered. Most gyms are either incredibly powerful, like the Yingsu gym. Alternatively, there's a family connection, where the gym is passed down directly to one's descendants. Of course, this also has prerequisites. It's not something that can be passed down simply because one wants to. To become an official league-recognized gym, it must at least undergo league review and undergo various tests and assessments. After going through these various procedures, only then can one be qualified to open or take over an official gym. This is why many gym trainers begin training their progeny at an early age, sometimes even allowing them to practice against challengers. Of course, some gym trainers still have some resistance, after all, either passed down through generations or already possessed considerable strength. Some gym trainers are even retired from League Masters. Sigh. That's a shame. Although I can't battle Maxiu's strongest Pokemon, I'm happy to have defeated Sylph. After all, Sylph defeated someone yesterday. Yuyu's face was slightly disappointed, but his voice was deliberately loud. You brat, Hiba, in the audience, naturally heard it too. Knowing that the person Yu was referring to was him, he shook his head and gave a wry smile. You look very confident, don't you? Maxiu covered her mouth lightly, her expression invisible. Of course. I believe Charmeleon will defeat the fairies, secure victory in the gym battle, and earn the aromatherapy gym's gym badge. Yu wore a confident smile, a look of complete certainty. Finally, as if this wasn't enough, he added, after all, I'm not as careless as someone else. Don't you agree, Charmeleon? Charmeleon was already poised in the battle arena, excited. He even fired a jet of flame straight at the ceiling. He hadn't expected his master to trust him so much. He couldn't let him down. Charmeleon made a secret decision. Hiba's cheeks darkened, his mouth twitched, and his knuckles cracked, furious. It seems that I didn't punish that brat enough this morning. Even now, he dares to sneer at me. It seems that I have to find another time to punish him severely. Ziba thought angrily in his heart, and made up his mind how to trick Yu. Chapter 360 Split. Then I'll have to take a closer look at your Charmeleon's strength. Just how strong is it? How dare you boast so brazenly? My Xiu's tone cooled slightly. But Yu remained unfazed. Her confident smile remained, her eyes once again blazing with fighting spirit. If that's the case, Miss My Xiu, then wait and see. The challenger will attack first. Though still a little indignant, My Xiu hadn't forgotten her responsibilities as a gym trainer or the rules of the competition. If that's the case, then we won't hold back. Charmeleon, show us your strength. Use Jet Flame. Fairy Elf, use Fairy Wind. The Fairy Elf's ribbon-like hair twirled, sending a strange wind towards the incoming Jet Flame. Immediately, as the Fairy Winds met, Charmeleon's Jet Flame began to surge, gradually dispersing and even seeming to push it back. Fire Jet doesn't work, Yu frowned subconsciously. The Sylphs were even more difficult to deal with than he'd imagined. However, My Xiu didn't give Yu and the others time to react. Sylphs, use Ultimate Charge. Oh. Planning a close quarters fight? Just what I'm saying. Charmeleon, use Cleave. Charmeleon's 3 claws shone with a dazzling white light, like scythes tearing through aerospace, unleashing a powerful force. Even a simple cleave move could unleash such power in Charmeleon's hands. This surprised both Xiaoyu and Shiba. After all, who would practice weak skills? They'd be better off learning powerful ones. But who had to run into this eccentric guy, Yu? As he said, in his opinion, there are no useless Pokemon, only useless trainers. Similarly, there are no useless skills, only trainers and Pokemon who can't use them. During regular training, besides having the Pikachus train physically and learn new skills, Yu spent the rest of his time constantly consolidating their proficiency. Whether they were newly learned or long established, Yu focused on refining their skills. After all, as the wise saying goes, reviewing the old allows one to learn new things. This applies not only to humans but also to Pokemon. During Charmeleon's training, Yu perfected his cleave skill to the point of mastery, achieving unparalleled power and effortless dexterity. He practiced on a boulder almost every chance he got, continuing to do so until he could crack it. To achieve a double-edged advantage, Yu also accelerated the training of his Pokemon. Sometimes, Yu would use Gyarados as a punching bag for Charmeleon, which also helped improve its resistance to blows, essentially strengthening its muscles. Furthermore, even the most useless and insignificant skills, once thoroughly practiced, could rival those of more powerful yet less familiar ones. It's not just Yu who has this thought, many others share it. After all, constantly learning a single skill is simply too time-consuming. It's better to master a skill thoroughly, which will increase its power. And with constant daily practice, you might even discover something new. Bang! The dull thud of flesh colliding echoed, and then the fairy elf, performing the ultimate charge, slid backward, scraping against the floor. 4 deep scratches appeared on the battlefield, and her once neat fur was now matted. SHHH. This splitting move is incredibly powerful. Watching from the audience, Shiba gasped. As a martial arts master, and with his own expertise in combat, he could discern some of Charmeleon's undiscovered tricks. This Yu guy is really crazy. Could he be using the same martial arts training methods to challenge Charmeleon and the others? Shiba muttered softly. With this reminder, Shiba suddenly realized that this was not impossible. Now that he was in a spectator's perspective, he recalled his previous battles with Yu. Both Suicune and Pikachu's speed and strength were far superior to those of ordinary creatures. Even at the same level, the Pokemon trained by this fighting king were almost on par with each other. In fact, due to the deep martial arts heritage of Chinese Kung Fu, Shiba believed that with time, Yu's Pokemon would even surpass his own. That's not the end of the story. Charmeleon will take possession of him, use Split continuously, and then follow up with Dragon Tail. Seeing that he was gaining the upper hand, Yu decided to press the advantage. For some reason, Yu suddenly felt the urge to end the battle quickly. He wanted to go and see how Serena's Pokemon show was going. Even though he had declined Serena's invitation that morning, and even though he didn't necessarily understand it, he could still go and cheer her on, right? For some reason, this thought suddenly struck Yu. It was utterly baffling, yet it felt perfectly natural. He ultimately rationalized this inexplicable thought by saying he hadn't seen Serena's performance at the fashion show the previous night. Shaking his head, Yu quickly suppressed the thought. The battle at hand was more important. Then, his gaze fixed, he quickly refocused his attention, watching the battle unfold. I'm suddenly feeling a bit down. I feel like I'm being looked down upon. As if sensing Yu's thoughts, Xiaoyu's beautiful brows furrowed, and she pouted, looking a bit sundear. Xiaoyu quickly suppressed her excess emotion and refrained from issuing orders. He simply watched the battle with a smile. Since you're so eager to get close to the fairy spirits, then come on, There's something fishy going on. Seeing this, Yu's heart was alarmed, but he couldn't find the problem for a moment, and it was not easy to suddenly order the fire dinosaur to stop attacking. After all, in Yu's opinion, the ancient saying of the first push is the best, the second is weaker, and the third is exhaustion was quite right and made a lot of sense. Chapter 361 A Bad Feeling. I suddenly feel a chill inside. But I can't quite put my finger on why, Yu thought to himself, his eyes focused even more intently as he looked at Charmeleon. Alarm bells rang in his heart. This wasn't a good sign. For Yu, it was a kind of battle instinct, an instinct for anticipating danger. It was precisely this instinct that had enabled him to survive countless life-or-death battles. While it didn't directly affect him, and its effect on Pokémon was significantly reduced, there was still a connection. While Yu was pondering, Charmeleon had already rapidly approached the fairy elf. Facing the adorable, furry-like fairy elf, Charmeleon showed no sign of holding back. His gaze was as cold as a knife, and his arms, raised high, their 3 claws, glowing white, now resembled 2 razor-sharp scythes. He slashed fiercely across the fairy elf's seemingly fragile form. To Charmeleon, a battle is a battle, either you lose your fighting ability or I lose mine. There's no room for compromise, a personality that perfectly mirrors its master, Yu. Seeing this, Yu wasn't displeased with Charmeleon's lack of sympathy. Instead, he nodded with satisfaction, his eyes gleaming with admiration. If anyone were to ask, Yu would even proudly declare, "Yes, you're right. That's what I taught you. In battle, there's no distinction between male and female, no distinction between man and woman, no distinction between male and female, only victory and defeat." This perfectly suits Yu's personality. And this is something Yu sometimes mentions to his Pokémon because he doesn't want to lose his Pokémon's fighting ability in battle because of a warm embrace with his opponent. We've been waiting for this moment. Fairy Elf, use absorbing kiss, Yu quickly commanded. The fairy, who had been frightened like a startled little white rabbit, suddenly brightened upon hearing the command. With a swift and agile dodge, she not only avoided Charmeleon's triple attack but also lifted her cheek and, taking advantage of Charmeleon's moment of inattention, pressed her lips directly against Charmeleon's face. Such an ordinary kiss, seemingly harmless, actually inflicted considerable damage on Charmeleon. Fortunately, perhaps because she had let her guard down, the fairy didn't notice Charmeleon's other arm was raised high when the sucking kiss landed on Charmeleon's face. A silvery white light flickered on it, and without waiting for the command from either Yu or Yu, the fairy's cleave skill was already unleashed mercilessly upon the fairy. This was a tactic of inflicting heavy damage, even at the risk of injury itself. It was a tactic that inflicted heavy damage on the opponent, a tactic that could inflict heavy losses on the enemy. Fairy, a mournful cry echoed, and the fairy's body slammed forward, releasing the sucking kiss. The moment the fairy elf's straining kiss left his body, Charmeleon felt his legs go weak and he fell to one knee, gasping for breath. This straining kiss is too much damage. Is Charmeleon already struggling? Yu frowned. But he wasn't about to give up. Due to his personality, Charmeleon shared Yu's thoughts. In Yu's Pokémon's view, they fought until they were incapable of fighting, never surrendering. This fairy type is too formidable. Dragon type skills are completely ineffective. Otherwise, Dragon Tail would be even more powerful, taking advantage of the brief respite between both Pokémon. Yu quickly mentally mapped out a countermeasure. Fairy Elf, how are you? Are you alright? Unlike Yu, lost in thought, Yu looked at the fairy elf with a worried look as she climbed back up from the floor, her words filled with concern. The fairy elf shook its head, its body, still a little shaky, but after some adjustments, it regained its balance and stood firmly. Upon hearing its master's question, it turned back to Maxiu and called out a few times, indicating that it was fine. Though the fairy elf looked a little disheveled, its adorable appearance couldn't be concealed. Seeing the fairy elf smile, Maxiu instinctively breathed a sigh of relief. Very good, fairy elf, go ahead and use charming voice. Although Yu was pondering a countermeasure, his attention remained focused on the battlefield, demonstrating a warrior's ability to see and hear in all directions to the utmost. The moment he heard Maxiu's decision, he instinctively gave the command, "Charmer, stop it, use jet flame." A thick column of fire erupted from the charmer's mouth, a scorching wave of flames rushing towards the fairy elf, the air scorching with heat. Because of the incoming jets of fire, the fairy elf didn't activate her charm. Instead, she gracefully stepped on her feet, and with a few light leaps, she dodged the attack. Though her charm wasn't successful, the fairy elf was able to seize the opportunity. Her beautiful eyes blinked, and she looked at the Charmeleon with vigilance. Got it, Yu's eyes lit up, as if a thought had occurred to him, and the corners of his mouth curled up again. Charmeleon, use your jets of fire to provide cover and assault. Yu gave a seemingly incoherent order. Although he didn't quite understand why his master had given this order, Charmeleon, trusting Yu, paused for a moment before shouting in response. Then, a thick jet of fire erupted from the Charmeleon's mouth again, aimed directly at the now vigilant fairy elf. Yu snorted in confusion. wondering what Yu was up to. Facing the impending onslaught of jet flames, Ma Xiu, though perplexed, showed no sign of sitting still and waiting for death. Fairy Elf, use Fairy Wind, ignore Charmeleon. Just use Jet Flame and charge forward. Yu's orders became more specific. Charmeleon continued to pump out Jet Flame, its mouth blazing with flames and its footsteps pulsating rapidly. But the Fairy Elf's Fairy Wind was no pushover. It seemed as if it were a powerful gust of wind against the Jet Flame, preventing it from advancing even a fraction. Chapter 362 The battle continues. Whoosh whoosh Jet Flame and Fairy Wind, two skills that could only be matched, intertwined at the critical point, preventing either from advancing an inch. The Jet Flames could not charge forward, and Fairy Wind's wind, focused on blocking the Jet Flames, was concentrated to a single point. The wind whistled like sharp blades, slicing through whatever was in its way. The Jet Flame seared the air, even carrying a faint smell of burning. Charmeleon's Jet Flames, honed through years of practice, were familiar with them. Meanwhile, the Fairy Elf, leveraging her level advantage, had unleashed the full power of Fairy Wind. However, perhaps due to the extreme sharpness of the Fairy Wind's blades, the once thick, cohesive Jet Flames began to appear to be cut by the Fairy Wind. The strings of flames were gradually whittled down upon contact with the Fairy Wind. Fortunately, the acid spray fire immediately followed, providing a continuous flow of energy. Ultimately, the power contest between the Fairy Wind and the Jet Fire came to an end. However, while it was over, it was merely an undecided outcome. Charmeleon continued to pound the Jet Fire, its pace not slowing but accelerating. What are you trying to do? Don't try to get close. We can't let you succeed. Watching Charmeleon's performance, Ma Xiu raised a brow. Immediately, she understood Yu's intention in ordering the Charmeleon and quickly issued the order to counter it. Fairy Elves, don't let it get close. Use Fairy Wind while keeping your distance. The Fairy Wind was now gaining momentum, its sustained output surprisingly comparable to Jet Fire. Furthermore, perhaps due to the elemental influence, it was no less powerful. The relentless onslaught of Fairy Wind caused the once powerful Jet Flame to begin to extinguish, with faint cracks appearing. Furthermore, as Fairy Wind was continuously attacked by the Fairy Elf retreated gracefully and nimbly, gradually putting distance between them and Charmeleon. Charmeleon felt a surge of anxiety as its target receded. However, perhaps due to the prolonged Jet Flame attack, Charmeleon needed a breath. After increasing the power of its Jet Flame to a certain level, it quickly shut up. He swallowed repeatedly to relieve his dry throat. While a fire-type Pokémon, it wasn't a flamethrower. Like humans, prolonged attacking fatigue would become a problem, especially for the throat. Without extensive training, Charmeleon's breath wouldn't be fire, but black smoke. During this moment of respite, Charmeleon kept moving, but without the flames to defend it, its pace slowed. The Fairy Elf took this opportunity to quickly retreat, maintaining a safe distance. I didn't expect my intentions to be seen through. Are you increasing your attack power? That's going to be quite a challenge. Yu rubbed his nose, a wry smile on his face, a look of resignation on his face. He had originally planned to have Charmeleon harass the Fairy Elf with its flames, drawing her attention. Then, he could close in and unleash his steel alloy claws, which countered the fairy type, to inflict a crushing blow. The rest of the match would then be much easier. Unexpectedly, Ma Xiu had finally seen through his plans. While she might not have fully grasped his intentions, she was pretty sure they were. Someone's doing it. Yu frowned at Charmeleon, whose throat seemed to be smoking. He was clearly contemplating a countermeasure. Oh. Who? Yu's in trouble. But I didn't expect Ma Xiu to be so formidable. Ziba had a playful smile on his face, even mentally preparing himself to comfort Yu after he lost the gym match, then burst into laughter. Seriously, just thinking about it makes me excited. Why is this match so slow? It's going to be over soon. I can't wait to see what's on Yu's face after he loses. It's going to be exciting. Ha 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 ha, Ziba roared in his heart, and because he was thinking too hard, an inexplicable smile appeared on his face. Oh, look at that uncle smile, he's so wicked. Yeah, he's just daydreaming, and it makes him look really filthy. Keep your voices down. Don't let that weird uncle hear you. I heard from Lady Maxiu that he's the regional king, then you better keep your voices down. Otherwise, if he suddenly picks someone up and hits them, we'll be in trouble. On the other side of the auditorium, a few young women who worked at the aromatherapy gym, or those who had come specifically to watch the gym competition, were whispering among themselves. Although their eyes were focused on the Pokémon battle on the field, they would occasionally glance in Shiba's direction. Shiba's smile gradually froze, and she felt as if her heart had suddenly turned to stone, from the inside out. Was she really that unwelcome? Back then, I was full of energy and flirtation, so I had so many girlfriends I couldn't even count them. It was only martial arts and Pokémon training that delayed me. Suddenly, I felt so much regret. Ignoring the Fighting King, Siva, who was currently experiencing 10,000 points of critical damage, he returned his gaze to the battlefield. Lisa, after a brief pause to recover, Charmeleon, without even waiting for Yuyu's command, rose from the ground again, a thick stream of flame erupting from its mouth. Then, with reckless abandon, it launched itself at full speed towards the fairy elf. The flames rising from its gaze, coupled with the suddenly growing flames from its tail, seemed to engulf the fairy elf. Because when the fire dinosaur stopped to adjust, the fairy elf also took the opportunity to slow down and did not continue to use the fairy wind. Although the damage caused was considerable when my dinosaur was unprepared, it took a long time after all, so the fairy elf stopped it consciously. Chapter 363 Catch It. Fairy. The fairy elf was startled by Charmeleon's sudden attack. Seeing Charmeleon's legs spread wide, swiftly approaching her once again, the fairy elf once again deployed her fairy power to defend herself, intending to employ her previous strategy. However, this time, Charmeleon seemed completely helpless against the fairy elf's fairy wind. She offered no response, continuing her pulsating gait as she dashed forward. She allowed the blade-like winds to rip through her body, leaving tiny wounds, but Charmeleon remained impervious, moving forward at a remarkably rapid pace. However, Charmeleon didn't rush blindly. She shielded her head with her arms, leaving only a few openings for her to discern her direction. That's quite a desperate fight. He completely disregarded his own injuries and even insisted on attacking the fairy Pokémon. He's quite a tenacious little creature. I'm quite impressed. Ma Xiu's beautiful eyes were filled with admiration as she watched Charmeleon, unfazed by the fairy wind, march forward with unwavering strides. In contrast, Yiyu, the trainer, sighed helplessly, his expression hesitant as he watched Charmeleon rise to the challenge, his eyes filled with complex emotions. Haha, Charmeleon, that brat. His personality is quite similar to mine. Once he gets into a fight, he practically throws his life away. No, maybe it's not just Charmeleon, Pikachu and the others are probably like that too. As their master, I'm at a loss for words. Yiyu's eyes reflected Charmeleon's back, and he muttered to himself, feeling a surge of emotion. Indeed, deeply influenced by their trainer, Yiyu, whether it's Pikachu or Suicune, they'll fight tooth and nail, practically recklessly, practically like crazy Pokémon. Deeply influenced by Yiyu's thoughts and personality, there's a saying to describe these Pokémon, whether facing battle or a challenge from others, as long as they have breath left, the fight will never stop until they fall. They'd rather collapse and lose their fighting ability than stand and admit defeat, or even more so, sit and wait for death. This is the story of Yiyu and Pikachu. Look at Charmeleon, he must be feeling pent up. Think about it, it's been a long time since he was led out to fight. Although he has sparred with Pikachu and the others from time to time, we know each other well after all. Think about it this way, Charmeleon is not having an easy time either. Forget it, let him do whatever he wants. Let him fight to his heart's content first, and then I'll give him the command. If all else fails, don't we still have Gyarados? I believe that after Charmeleon's consumption, the fairy Pokémon will also feel uncomfortable. Yiyu silently made up his mind, so he didn't plan to intervene. However, although he didn't plan to intervene, in order to make the battle more fair, Yiyu finally decided to give Charmeleon a hint. If Charmeleon finds an opportunity, use the alloy claws. Charmeleon heard his master's hint and shouted to adapt. Oh. Looking at Yiyu's attitude, isn't he up to something bad again? Seeing Yiyu's completely indifferent and aloof demeanor, Ma Xiu felt a surge of suspicion and forced herself to be on high alert. She feared a moment of carelessness would lead her and the fairy elf into a trap. Despite her vigilance, facing the Charmeleon's charge, Ma Xiu wouldn't sit idly by. Fairy elf, use ultimate impact. Since the situation was somewhat unpredictable, Ma Xiu decided to engage in another head-on confrontation, hoping to draw out the other party's subsequent plans. As expected, the Charmeleon was momentarily unprepared for the fairy elf's sudden change in attack, but it quickly adjusted itself and faced the fairy elf head-on, charging head-on at breakneck speed. Charmeleon also retracted its jets of flame, constantly remembering Yuyu's previous warning. Its arms immediately lost their white glow, and its 3 glowing claws became like giant claw guards, their alloy claws instinctively unleashing their power. So that's how it is. Are you planning to rely on your stat advantage to win? Ma Xiu immediately saw what Charmeleon was thinking, or more accurately, what Yuyu was thinking. But despite this thought, Ma Xiu didn't appear to react at all. She simply watched as Self launched its ultimate charge, colliding with Charmeleon's metallic alloy claws. Bang! Steel-type alloy claws were incredibly effective against Fairy-type Pokémon. Facing the claws, Self was completely defenseless and was sent flying, its elegant form appearing utterly disfigured. Its snow-white fur was clumps of dust from its impact. Seeing this, the battle-hardened Charmeleon, needing no orders from Yuyu, immediately adopted a strategy of pursuing the enemy. Furthermore, having seen the effectiveness of its alloy claws against the fairy elves, Charmeleon intended to employ them for victory. Despite its short legs, Charmeleon's sprinting speed was impressive, demonstrating its weight training. In a flash, it was already in front of the fairy elves, its metallic alloy claws raised high, ready to strike at any moment. Despite this, Charmeleon didn't hesitate, slashing down with lightning speed, as if the fairy elves would lose their fighting ability at any moment. But even facing the swift and fierce attack of the alloy claw, Ma Xiu, the gym trainer, was truly formidable. Her response was effortless. Fairy elf, grab it. What? Yuyu's face lit up with surprise as Ma Xiu gave the order. Although he had said he would not interfere with Charmeleon's fight, intending to give it a thorough and utter defeat, and although the previous fight had followed Yuyu's script, facing Ma Xiu's meaningless command, Yuyu's heart was secretly in turmoil. His mind raced, imagining ways to counter Charmeleon's attacks, or some tactic to turn defeat into victory. Chapter 364 Fire Dinosaur. Whether it was personality or something else, Yuyu often didn't see the bright side of things when faced with them, always focusing on the negative. This allowed him to better appreciate and savor the wonderful feeling of victory, or the unexpected reward, which brought him a greater sense of satisfaction. Therefore, upon hearing Ma Xiu's command, Yuyu's mind raced, recounting every possible negative outcome for his side. As for the reason behind his thoughts, it was simple for Yuyu. Because of his loneliness as a child, he began to imagine the game of self-discipline. For example, in martial arts, Yuyu would sometimes imagine someone competing against him. His opponent would, as if reading his mind, often attack his weaknesses or flaws. Or, in chess, life is like a chess game, and everyone is a pawn. He imagined himself competing against someone else, and every move he made would seem like the opponent would give him a chance to exploit his weaknesses, and then he would follow suit and exploit his weaknesses. Simply put, it was about identifying weaknesses in oneself, finding loopholes or solutions in one's own tactics. Ideas and strategies for self-determination raced through Yuyu's mind. However, perhaps due to his lack of a fairy elf, or even the infrequent encounters, Yuyu, while understanding some basic information about them, lacked the knowledge to fight them. He racked his brain for a long time, but couldn't come up with a clear solution. Either it was impossible, it wouldn't work, or he hadn't thought of it. As his thoughts raced through his mind, the clash on the battlefield was nearing its climax. The knotted bands that had once danced around the fairy elf now seemed like steel whips. Facing the ferocious blows of Charmeleon and gold armor, the fluttering bands entangled Charmeleon's claws tightly. The seemingly frail, easily broken bands now brimmed with strength. The moment his claws were entangled, Charmeleon instinctively tried to pull them free, but the pull was ineffective. Not only that, the ties binding the two dragons grew tighter and tighter. Without any leverage, the fairy elf yanked Charmeleon forward, causing it to stumble and fall to the ground. And that wasn't the end of it. Though Charmeleon was pulled down, its claws remained bound, and before it could react, the seemingly fragile fairy elf manipulated the ties to lift Charmeleon. With such ease, it seemed as if the object wasn't something heavier than itself, but rather a tiny pebble. That ties are so flexible. I never thought the fairy elves could use such seemingly insignificant ties like this. I'm truly impressed, seeing the tactics displayed by Ma Xiu and the fairy elf, Yu momentarily forgot they were still engaged in battle and couldn't help but exclaim in amazement, almost applauding. Haha, these are just small tricks. But how will Yu and the red dinosaur resolve this dilemma? Ma Xiu chuckled, her beautiful eyes filled with curiosity. Far from feeling complacent at Yu's praise, her small movements showed she was even more vigilant. Oh. Ah. That's right, the battle isn't over yet. Yu finally realized what was happening, scratching his head sheepishly, a hint of embarrassment on his face. But do you think a Mirnot can hold Charmeleon? Break free, Charmeleon. If that doesn't work, use your flamethrower. Yu, a man of exceptional combat awareness, immediately thought of a solution for Charmeleon in such a predicament. Li's eye after the initial panic of being suspended in the air, Charmeleon had calmed down. His eyes, once a bit frightened, once again flashed with a fierce gleam, and he regained his composure. Then, facing the predicament of being hung upside down, Charmeleon performed solo sit-ups, oblivious to the world around him. Simultaneously, his 3 claws flashed white light, intending to use their sharp claws to break free from the knot. HMPH. I won't let you succeed. Fairy elf, swing your body and show us your most graceful and beautiful side. Fairy the fairy elf cried out sweetly. Her subsequent dance was even more beautiful, like a dancing girl, and her knotted ribbon, with a Charmeleon bound to it, resembled a fluttering ribbon, a truly dazzling display. While the fairy elf's dance was breathtakingly beautiful, Charmeleon's mood was less than serene. Like a tattered sack, it allowed the fairy elf to swing it around, seemingly with ease, even performing a yo-yo famous trick, around the world. This distracted Charmeleon, and whenever it tried to break free or attempt a fire-breathing tactic, the fairy elf would, whether intentionally or not, slam it to the ground or toss it high into the air. While Charmeleon hadn't lost its fighting ability, its eyes were certainly spinning in circles. If Charmeleon were to go to an amusement park and ride a pendulum or other thrilling ride right now, it would undoubtedly be traumatized. The opponent is very strong, and it's a bit difficult to deal with. If this continues, Charmeleon will completely lose its fighting ability. Yu was also starting to get anxious. Although he still had Gyarados as a potential countermeasure, it was best to avoid it if possible. Charmeleon, perhaps it was due to the excitement or perhaps he was overly concerned about Charmeleon's condition, but Yu couldn't help but yell excitedly, completely losing his usual calm demeanor. And with just that one shout, the whole situation was in jeopardy. It was unknown if Yu's shout had any special purpose or meaning. When Yu shouted Charmeleon's name, Charmeleon, once bound in a knot and on his journey around the world, seemed to regain consciousness. His eyes no longer swirled, but a clear, bright look took over. The sound was accompanied by Charmeleon's high-pitched and full of fighting spirit. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 365, Fire Fang. Can someone explain this? What's going on? Did you just yell? Why does it feel like Charmeleon's power has been transformed by that yell? His aura seems to have completely changed. Ziba's astonishment was palpable, and the twitching of his lips revealed his thoughts. This is so fake. Not even novels or TV shows would dare to portray it this way. It's so fake, so fake. How could a trainer's shouting turn a Pokémon at a disadvantage into something like drugged-up Pokémon? If I knew about this, I'd definitely complain to him. Ziba thought bitterly, watching the battle unfold and the equally dazed Yu. His emotions were a tangle of emotions. Could it be true, as Kona says, that this kid is full of miracles, that the impossible becomes possible with him? Ziba muttered subconsciously. Then, a look of disbelief filled his face, its expression becoming incredibly varied, almost indescribable. The more he looked at it, the more it resembled the archetypal protagonist from TV shows and novels. If the storyline had unfolded, it would have been a thoroughly cheesy protagonist, but Yu didn't look like one at all. The Fighting King felt a wave of disharmony. He had fought so hard for so long, yet in the end, he was facing a worse fate than someone with the talent for a leading role. Riza Charmeleon's roar echoed once again, its teeth bared, its face etched with the wrath of a human who had finally become a close friend. And that very cry once again captured everyone's attention. Though still dangling in midair, it was a little blurry. But that didn't detract from Charmeleon's drug-fueled state. Yes, Charmeleon began to struggle, trying to completely free himself from the damp bindings, but perhaps because they were too tight, the bonds remained in place. But who was her Charmeleon? He was destined to surpass Old Pen in the future, and he felt no embarrassment at all. He began to control his strength, swaying back and forth like a pendulum, bound by the knot. But would Maxiu and the fairy elf agree to his wishes? The answer was obvious: of course not. Both Charmeleon and the fairy elf were now locked in a struggle, using the knot as a clash of strength, each grappling with the other, each vying for power, neither willing to yield. But the battle was far more complex than that. If that were the case, then Charmeleon's cheating behavior would be truly disappointing. He swung back again, leveraging force and inertia to perform another solo sit-up, oblivious to the fairy elf's manipulation of the knot, ready to slam it to the ground in the next moment. The Charmeleon, still baring its teeth, suddenly had its mouth engulfed in flames. What had initially been mere wisps of fire ignited into a blazing maw. Without hesitation, it swooped down and bit directly into the ties that bound it. While the fluttering ties were still part of the fairy spirit's body. Therefore, the pain and the burning flames caused them to instinctively loosen. Oh! That Charmeleon must have used Fire Fang. It seems he's learned a new skill. So, if we follow habit, Yu muttered softly to himself. This was probably a habit, fearing he'd forget it if he memorized it. The Charmeleon, well prepared, quickly adjusted its stance in midair for a successful landing. The entire sequence, from the initial attack to the final, safe landing, seemed like an eternity, but it was only a moment's work. At least, aside from Yu, Maxiu, and Shiba. The other onlookers were still dazed. As soon as its feet touched the ground, Charmeleon stomped the ground again, shooting out like an arrow, its claws extended, a metallic sheen covering them, clearly gathering strength. Oh. Are you planning on using your alloy claws again? But that trick won't work on the fairy elf anymore. Seeing the other party resort to the same old trick, Maxiu couldn't help but chuckle, her face full of confidence in the fairy elf's strength. HMPH, Yu let out a silly, nasal laugh. Then you can try it. Charmeleon, go all out, Zha, it's no use. The fairy elf will wait for it to get close, then grab it again, and then it's time for the enchanting show. Its legs pulsed rapidly, and Charmeleon quickly approached the fairy elf. Just as its claws were about to fall, the fairy elf's two knotted ties extended again and swiftly bound Charmeleon's arms, preventing the alloy claws in both hands from advancing an inch. Seeing the living dinosaur about to follow in its footsteps once again, Charmeleon showed no sign of panic. Its eyes were fierce, clearly using its glare ability. Furthermore, as the fairy sprite was intimidated, Charmeleon's sharp maw opened wide, ablaze with flames, clearly Flame Fang. Ha! Just as I expected. I wonder if Pichu and the others have an agreement. Every time they learn a new skill, they always use it. But even so, I like it. Yu's face was smug, feeling a slight sense of pride at having guessed Charmeleon's intentions. Even if a Pokemon didn't use a new skill after learning it, Yu would make them use it. In fact, at least half of a battle would be spent on newly learned skills. Back in the battlefield, the scorching heat of Flame Fang continued to blow towards the fairy sprite, its flaming maw drawing ever closer. At that moment, just as the fairy elf was about to attack, Maxiu's timing was impeccable, and she issued the order without hesitation. Fairy elf, use this moment to unleash the ultimate charge. With the knots surrounding Charmeleon bound to both sides, the fairy elf was now like a slingshot. As Charmeleon struggled with the knots and unleashed its Fire Fang, the fairy elf simply gave up the struggle and let Charmeleon's force pull it forward. The fairy elf then stomped its feet against the ground. Though the movement was graceful, it was like a cannonball fired from a gun. As Charmeleon stared in astonishment, it slammed into him. Chapter 366 Tornado appears. Charmeleon has lost its ability to fight. Challengers, please change your Pokemon. At this moment, the female referee's voice echoed from the battle arena at the aromatherapy gym. Following her gaze, they saw Charmeleon lying on the ground, its eyes swirling with circles, clearly unable to fight. Of course, Fairy Elf's condition wasn't much better. Although it was still standing, it was staggering, looking somewhat exhausted. Looking at Charmeleon, now completely incapacitated, Fairy Elf smiled happily. Fighting against a higher level opponent is indeed a bit tiring. especially since Charmeleon has only just reached a quasi-king realm and hasn't quite mastered his power yet, Yu muttered to himself, his face devoid of disappointment. He took out Charmeleon's Pokeball and put it back. Yu then chuckled as he glanced at Charmeleon's Pokeball. Thank you for your hard work. You've performed well enough. Now it's Gyarados, Fairy Elf, how are you? Can you still fight? Instead of the joy of victory, my Xiu looked worriedly at the shaky figure on the field, poised to collapse at any moment. Fairy though still graceful, the Fairy Elf was already panting. Upon hearing her master's question, she shook her head and whispered to my Xiu. That, okay, I understand. Let's do our best this year. My Xiu seemed hesitant, but upon seeing the determination in those bright eyes, she was immediately inspired. Next, Gyarados, it's your turn to play again to finish the job. Yu sent Gyarados into the field once again. Its power had intensified since its previous appearance. Its eyes gleamed fiercely, its excitement evident, and its roars echoed intermittently throughout the empty room. Haha, that's really not elegant at all. Resolving a fight with brute force isn't gentlemanly behavior. My Xiu was feeling a bit apprehensive. It wasn't that she was afraid of Gyarados, but rather that fighting a purely power-heavy, defensive-focused beast like Gyarados was incredibly frustrating. Imagine your attacks having no effect on Gyarados. On the other hand, just a single collision would inflict tons of damage on your side. It would be fine if only one of these factors were present, but Gyarados had both. A fairy Pokemon specializing in sensitive attacks wouldn't benefit from them at all. Haha, miss my Xiu, you're joking. For roughnecks like us, we don't care about fighting or not, victory is everything. Isn't that right? Yu chuckled, his seriousness making Shiba laugh. My Xiu, one of the parties involved, was furious, but there was nothing she could do. Well, it's just a Gyarados, isn't it? It's a bit larger than usual, its golden form a bit more imposing, but what does that matter? I'm the gym trainer of the aromatherapy gym. While I'm not as powerful as the victorious one, I'm certainly a seasoned warrior. How could I possibly be so easily intimidated? Fairy, taking a deep breath, my Xiu was about to issue an order, but before she could open her mouth, she was ruthlessly interrupted by Yu. Miss my Xiu, there's no need to go to all that trouble. I know the rules. It's up to the challenger Asgard. Huh? Gym trainer my Xiu looked bewildered. What was going on? This Gyarados uses water cannon for a quick victory? Ugh. This guy really doesn't have the manners to be a gentleman at all. He's even cheating. My Xiu took another deep breath, forcing down the churning emotions within her. He quickly issued the necessary orders. Fairy elves, get out of the way. Then use fairy wind. Whoosh whoosh, the sound of wind echoed, altering the trajectory of the water cannon's attack. Seeing the water cannon's failure, Yu wasn't discouraged. Instead, he led on with a mischievous grin. I was planning on playing with more of a group. After all, battling a gym trainer, and a Pokemon with elite level power, would normally make me excited. But we're pressed for time today, so let's call it a day. What? Before my Xiu could even ask her question, her heart skipped a beat at the sight of Yu's wicked smile. Gyarados, use Call for Rain, then Storm, as expected. The next moment, upon hearing Yu's orders, my Xiu's premonition was confirmed. Damn it, we can't let them succeed. Fairy Sprite, use Charming Voice, ignore it, Gyarados, and use Beseech Rain. Beseech Rain takes a short time to cast, so even facing the almost instantaneous Charming Voice, Gyarados managed to withstand it. A look of pain etched across his face made his already ferocious dragon head even more terrifying. This expression could almost be compared to a glare, a grimace, or other skills used to intimidate other Pokemon. Very good, Fairy Sprite, that's what you're doing. Next is Fairy Wind, I won't let you succeed. Gyarados, continue with Wind Blast. Sharp gusts of wind blew towards Gyarados, and even Gyarados, with his exceptionally strong defense, felt the pain of being cut by 1,000 blades. After all, those wind blades were not made of air. The seemingly gentle breeze held a fierce edge. Gyarados' painful howl echoed. After all, even though Storm had been unleashed, it wasn't a one-shot success. The wind needed to slowly build. Storm, after all, wasn't like Fairy Wind or Fierce Blast, which could be cast almost instantly with a single effort. Furthermore, the tornado combo required the stacking of two skills. The previously deployed rain beckoning skill had long since vanished before the previous battle began. Finally, after forcing through fairy wind and charming voice, the tornado combo began to take shape. The wind began to sweep in, and the combination of wind and rain formed a tornado barrier, once again encompassing the entire battlefield. Chapter 367 Victory. Fairy at that moment, the fairy elf was in a state of panic. Even though it had been battle-hardened, having faced numerous powerful opponents, even having defeated even the Pokémon of the king yesterday, it was now truly terrified. Like a headless fly, it darted around, trying to escape the tornado's clutches. But it was doomed to disappointment. The combined might of wind and rain, forming a tornado, meant that the fairy elf, skilled in agile attacks, could easily break free. Being in the very center of the tornado's eye, it was already a blessing to avoid being blown away. If it were a heavyweight Pokémon like Bosquil or Snorlax, they could have relied on their weight and sustained minor damage to break free. After all, the tornado's rotation and concentration were not strong enough. But now, facing the gradually forming tornado, the fairy elf was completely overwhelmed. She wanted to break free, but she lacked the strength. Besides strength, it's also possible to escape a tornado with speed, though that requires incredible speed. Pikachu might be able to pull it off. However, while a fairy Pokémon is agile, relying on speed to escape a tornado is still a challenge. My Xiu, unlike you, doesn't prioritize her Pokémon's physical fitness, instead focusing most of her time on training its abilities. Consequently, surrounded by the tornado, the fairy Pokémon quickly lost its fighting capacity. After all, while it had won the previous battle, it had consumed a tremendous amount of energy. Observing the situation on the battlefield, the young referee quickly raised the red and green flags in her hands and announced the result. The fairy Pokémon is incapacitated, so the challenger wins. Win. This is fantastic. I've got one badge, which means I only have 2 left, and I'm eligible to participate in the Kalos League. You couldn't help but exclaim in excitement. If it weren't for the many people present, he would have transformed into a middle school boy. Fighting back the joy of victory, Yu pondered, but then again, these gyms are incredibly difficult, each one getting tougher than the last. But I'm really looking forward to what challenges the next 2 will bring me. Just thinking about it makes me excited, I can't wait. Meanwhile, just as Yu secured victory at the aromatherapy gym, across from Aromatherapy City, within a performance venue, exclamations and cheers echoed overhead. Colorful dots of light intertwined and shimmered in the air, creating a truly beautiful and mystical scene. These various dots of light floated in the air, but their ultimate goal was a single goal, the voting data floating on the stage in front of them. Ultimately, the pink data, representing the color pink, stood out from the crowd, clearly claiming first place. Beneath the pink data stood a charming figure with brown hair, dressed in a lovely outfit. Facing her were 2 Pokémon, Charmeleon and Eevee. At that moment, both they and the others were facing the audience, faces filled with anticipation and nervousness. Everyone tacitly avoided looking up at the voting results, silently awaiting the host's announcement or the cheers from the audience. As the final orb of light descended, the host made his presence known again. The final voting results are in. The winners of this Pokémon show are Serena and her Pokémon, ignoring the host's intentional or unintentional attempts to keep things under wraps. The moment the results were announced, the audience erupted in applause, shouts, and cheers. Serena, initially unsure of herself upon hearing her victory, then exclaimed in surprise, covering her sheep's mouth with her hands. Fiery Fox and Eevee, upon hearing the host's announcement, were as happy and excited as their owners, turning and leaping towards them for a mutual hug. Haha Firefox, Eevee, we've won. Haha this is just the beginning. I'm sure we'll do well in the upcoming competitions. Serena hugged her 2 Pokémon, her heart overflowing with excitement. Especially standing on the stage, where one could see far and wide, the audience roared in delight, and Chi cheered for her as the winner. At that moment, Serena felt an unprecedented sense of happiness. Her Pokémon's performance had been recognized by them. Finally, she could enjoy the cheers just like her son. Go Serena, Serena. This is just the beginning. Your next goal is to qualify for the Triple Crown Satellite Tournament. Serena mentally encouraged herself. Now we'll present the winner with a princess key. The host took the key and, to the admiration of the other contestants and the blessings of the audience, handed it, which functioned like a gym medal, to Serena. Seeing the dazzling center stage, Her son and daughters, watching from the audience, were equally delighted. Haha. It's really not easy. Serena finally got her first Princess Gold, Xiaoxu said, her tone thick with emotion. After all, from Serena's first Pokemon show to her repeated failures, Xiaoxu had seen it all. Gentle and kind, she was truly happy and blessed for Serena's recovery. Yes, it's been difficult. Serena has truly grown a lot. From a newbie to now winning. It's just a small beginner show, but it represents her first successful step. As Serena's mentor and friend, Air felt a mixture of emotions, even a poignant feeling that her daughter had finally grown up. After all, compared to Xiaoxu, Air had witnessed much more of Serena's growth. And he was even more excited for Serena's future growth. Yet, Serena is really amazing. As the one who has spent the shortest time with Serena, Xiaojuer didn't feel as deeply as the other two girls, but as a friend she was happy for her. Chapter 368 The Resentful Little Juer. The sun had already quietly reached its zenith, marking the hottest time of the day. Yet, the Pokemon Center in Aromatherapy City was bustling with activity. And where exactly was the excitement? Of course, it was the cafeteria. After all, it was already noon, and a man is as strong as steel. Skipping a meal is enough to make one hungry. Oh. What a pity. I thought if I could quickly resolve the battle, I could quickly go to watch Serena's Pokemon show and cheer her on, but I didn't expect to be a step behind. Yu took a croquette and took a gloomy bite, lamenting his failure to attend the Pokemon show where Serena had won. Yu, don't be so depressed. You've been like this all the way back here. Can't even delicious food dampen your spirits? No, I originally thought the battle should have been resolved quickly. But all this is all Shiba's fault. Yu was now filled with resentment. Shiba paused while picking up some food, a look of innocence on his face. You're not strong enough, and you're blaming me. I don't want to bother with you. Yu fell silent. Although he had previously accused the weak of bullying, in the battlefield, strength reigned supreme, and the one with the biggest fists reigned supreme. The other women watched the bickering between Yu and Shiba with a smile on their faces. Serena blushed slightly, stealing glances at Yu from time to time as she ate from her bowl. Recalling Yu's earlier words, a sudden sweetness welled up in her heart. By the way, Xiaojuer, what are your plans next? Air suddenly tilted her head to ask Xiaojuer, who was sitting across from her. Me? The fashion show is over, and I'm free from now on. I should be heading back to the other regions. After all, I'm also a gym trainer at the Raven Gym. I can't leave for too long, Xiaojuer said without hesitation. Oh. That's such a pity. I was planning to have Xiaojuer travel with us for a while. Air felt a little regretful. After all, the more people traveling together, the more lively it would be. There will be a chance. You can also come to the Unova region to find me then, and I will definitely take you on a good trip. Xiaojuer smiled slightly. Then when are you leaving, Xiaojuer? Yu asked. Well, do you really want me to leave early? Xiaojuer pouted and looked at Yu with a resentful look. Perhaps she didn't even notice that there was a hint of coquettishness in her tone. Ahoha. How is that possible? I'm still looking forward to our trip. Yu scratched his hair awkwardly. At this moment, before Xiaojuer could say anything, Ziba's raspy voice rang out. Since Yu is so excited, Xiaojuer can't go on the trip with you guys, but I can travel with you for a while. How about it? Excited or not, Yu angrily slapped Ziba's hand on his shoulder away, his face filled with disdain. If it's you, forget it. You should stay here and wait to reunite with Du and Sister Kona. We'll see you in Fangshou Town then. I didn't expect you to be like this, Yu. You're a typical example of putting love before friendship. Ziba glared at Yu. Then, Yu and Ziba, the two good friends, started bickering again, each dissatisfied with the other. If it weren't for the fact that it was still lunchtime in the cafeteria, and that their previous battle Pokemon were being kept with Miss Joy for treatment and recovery, they would probably have pulled out their Pokeballs and started fighting again. Xiaoxu looked at the two boys bickering with some concern. Even for her gentle personality, she couldn't help but feel a headache at this moment. The other girls watched the scene with similar amusement. They'd never imagined that the usually mild-mannered, sunny boy would transform into a completely different person in the presence of powerful rivals, like Yulong Zinai and the present Ziba being prime examples. Forget them. Let's just ignore them. Let's get back to our girlist stuff. Yeah, ignore them. Let's discuss what to do with the rest of the afternoon. I have a flight tomorrow. I suggest we go shopping and eat some good food. Oh, and since you just won a gym badge and Serena got a princess key today, how about we have a celebration party tonight? We can buy some extra ingredients, and then I can borrow the Pokémon restaurant. This suggestion came, of course, from Xiaoxu, our level 7 breeder and master chef, who's both a master and a master chef. A feast. Wow, I agree. At the mention of food, Yu's body trembled, then she jumped up like a child. The calm and composed look he had during the battle was completely gone. Don't be so happy too soon. You have to come with us shopping this afternoon. We girls will do the shopping, and you'll be responsible for carrying our bags. Hey. Really? I'm planning to give Pikachu and the others special training this afternoon, Yu protested decisively. Protests are invalid. If you want a big meal, you have to put in the work. Air winked playfully, her face serious. That's right, Air is right. Come shopping with us this afternoon, Xiaoxu also echoed at this time. And Yu, shouldn't you also go to stock up on travel supplies? And don't you need to buy clothes? Don't you think you can ask Serena to help you anymore? You're just friends, but you're doing what a girlfriend should do. Are you embarrassed? Xiaoguang also joined the ranks of condemnation. This is a typical example of someone who doesn't mind making trouble. Oh, how could I not? Yu subconsciously wanted to refute, but after reacting, he blinked his eyes and looked confused. Hey. Xiaoguang, how did you know that Selina bought things for me? Haha, you are really forgetful. Have you forgotten that when I was in Mire City, I went shopping with Selina and the others, and Karina was also with us? Xiaoguang had a bright smile on her face, which made people look so dazzling at first glance. But in Yu's opinion, it was not the case. He just felt a little cold in his heart. Why did Xiaoguang's smile feel so creepy? And what's the matter with that resentful little look? I shouldn't have done anything to be a scumbag who abandons me after having fun with me. Okay, there's no point in saying more. We'll go shopping together in the afternoon and have a party in the evening. Chapter 369 Camping in the Wild. Pika, Where is this? Why do we feel like we're lost again? Yu, your sense of direction is amazing. 10 times you lead the way, we'll get lost at least once. But this time, it just so happened, we hit that 10% chance. There's nothing I can do. I'm helpless too. There's no markings on the map for this forest. I can only rely on my years of experience. Pikachu in a forest somewhere on the way to Fangshou Town. This conversation echoed intermittently above the dense forest. That's right, this group was Yu and his group heading to Fangshou Town. But now, they seemed to be in trouble. Yes, the legendary lost. A day had passed since Yu obtained the aromatherapy gym badge and Serena received her first princess gold key. That evening, Xiaoxu had truly shown off her skills, cooking a huge table of delicious food, and everyone had a blast. The next day, the group split up. After breakfast early in the morning, Yu, Serena, and the other two girls once again embarked on a journey to Fangshou Town. Ziba stayed behind, awaiting the arrival of Du and Kona, before heading to Fangshou Town together. As for Xiaoguang, since her flight to Unova was in the afternoon, and she had been too happy the night before, she remained tucked away in her warm bed even after Yu and the others left. His gaze returned to the lost foursome. Hey, Yu, look at the sky. It's getting late. Why don't we camp out in the wild tonight? Otherwise, if we get lost here any longer, we might not even make it to dinner. Looking up at the gradually darkening sky, Xiaoxu asked Yu in front of him. Because the forest was not very dense, the gaps between the branches were quite large. Yu could also see the sky above just by looking up. It's getting dark. So, we'll just have to make do in this forest tonight. What do you think? Yu didn't make a dictatorial move, but instead looked at Serena and Air. After all, for a man like him, it didn't matter where he lived. He'd experienced using the sky as a blanket and the ground as a bed during his time as a novice. Similarly, Xiaoxu, the original initiator of the proposal, also looked at Serena and Air. I agree, yeah. Me too, Serena nodded, seeming a bit excited. After all, even though she'd been traveling with Yu for a while, Serena was only just getting over her novice trainer mentality. Camping in the wild was a refreshing change from sleeping in her room at home. Okay, that's settled. Let's find a water source, Yu suggested. Yeah, I just saw a stream. Let's head over there, Serena volunteered. Okay, Serena, you lead the way this time. Let's pick up some useless branches along the way, so we don't have to go out and collect firewood later, Yu suggested. That's a good idea, Xiaoxu agreed with a smile. Serena then took the lead, with Yu and the others following behind obediently. As they walked, everyone started chatting again. Hey, Serena, why do you seem so excited? I remember you used to be afraid of camping. Yeah, I remember when you first started traveling with us, you were very resistant to camping. You always had to find a Pokémon Center to stay, haha. Now that you mention it, I remember Serena was so scared and nervous the first time we camped together. Now that I think about it, it's true. Yu joins Xiaoxu and Air in their discussion. Pika not only him, but even Pikachu on Yu's shoulder joined in the conversation. Hate it. You just know how to make fun of me. And Yu, why are you like that too? Pikachu, you too. Serena turned her head and angrily looked at the three people and one pet teasing her. She couldn't help but stamp her foot in frustration, her angry expression adorable. Ho ho ho. From time to time, the cheerful laughter of the crowd echoed above the gloomy forest, making the once quiet forest lively. Serena's sense of direction was a little better than Yu's. They didn't walk long before a clear stream appeared in front of them. Although the sky had darkened, it didn't seem to affect the Pokémon living there at all. Rocket and Pidgeot continued their daily routines of leaving early and returning late. Several four-season deer were resting by the stream to replenish their water. Tadpoles and a few goldfish were playing and frolicking. Everything seemed so perfect, and the arrival of Yu and the others didn't break the atmosphere at all. Okay, everyone, let's get started and cook. We've been traveling for so long, and everyone's tired. Xiaoxu was the first to put down her space backpack, then began to pull out various tools from it. Well, in that case, Pikachu and I will be in charge of setting up the tent, Yu volunteered. Pikachu, having already jumped off Yu's shoulder, called out, raising his little arm. Then I'll trouble you and Pikachu. Serena and I will boil the water, help Xiaoxu, and take care of the Pokémon. Everyone had a clear division of labor, and their coordination was excellent. Oh, right, it's time to let them out and move around. After all, it's getting too boring staying in a Pokéball all the time. Yu, as if thinking of his Pokémon, quickly stood up again. He then touched the belt at his waist, and 5 Pokéballs appeared in his hand, which he tossed upwards. Come out, everyone. Suicune, Gyarados, Charmeleon, Ditto, and Crawl, the other side. If that's the case, everyone come out too. Charmeleon, Eevee, Vulpix, Melodic, Vulpix, Dragonite, a large flash of red light, the sound of Pokéballs opening one after another, and the cries of various Pokémon rang out. Yu's traveling companions also appeared one by one. Both Yu's Pokémon and those of the other 3 girls were extremely excited at this moment. Chapter 370 Water Block. Gyarados, the moment it emerged from its Pokéball, Gyarados was incredibly excited, shouting in delight. The water-type Pokémon's eyes lit up, especially when they saw a stream nearby. Perhaps because they were usually trained, the moment Yu released them, they subdued their restlessness and cast their gazes towards their master. Okay, stop looking at me like that. It's like I'm torturing you. No training today. I'm giving you a day off. Have fun, everyone. But don't stray too far, because dinner's almost here. The 3 women gave similar instructions to their Pokémon, and after a few more warnings, they dispersed. Hearing their master's orders, the Pokémon were particularly excited. Gyarados was especially so. As soon as Yu gave the order, it swung its massive body and dove headfirst into the stream, its excitement unfurling. Of course, it wasn't the only one. The other Pokémon were in a similar situation, though in a less severe state. Gyarados, with a roar, Gyarados excitedly dove into the stream, sending a powerful splash of water flying. Though the stream wasn't deep, barely reaching Gyarados' belly, the distance and height of the splash were considerable, like a brief downpour. The Pokémon that had just approached the shore were instantly drenched. However, Suicune, a legendary water type, fared relatively well, as the tiny water droplets were shaken away by an invisible force before they even touched him. Yu, however, was quick-witted and rushed forward, shielding Charmeleon's flaming tail behind him and joining the drenched group. It was only fitting that there were no rock-type Pokémon in the group at the moment, otherwise they would have been in great trouble. The water-type Pokémon felt better after the gentle rain, but the fire types didn't. Charmeleon, long-tailed Charmeleon, and Vulpix all looked disapprovingly at Gyarados, who was happily playing in the water. Gyarados, on the other hand, seemed unconcerned, playing in the water, even occasionally lashing its thick tail, sending water lapping against the shore. Charmeleon's feelings were the most complex at this moment. He stared blankly at the drenched figure before him, who seemed so tall and majestic, his slightly reddened eyes filled with an inexplicable meaning. He ignored Charmeleon's complex feelings and brushed the water off his cheek. Yu's long, tied-up black hair had finally unfurled, with glistening water droplets cascading down the ends, making them stand out against the evening light. After reacting, Yu didn't bother to scold Gyarados, and quickly turned around to check on Charmeleon. Charmeleon, are you okay? What happened? Because of setting up the tent, Yu was relatively close to the stream, so only Yu and the Pokémon were affected. Serena and the other 3 girls were not affected because they were preparing the ingredients in the book. After seeing Yu become a drowned rat, Xiaoxu quickly took out a bath towel from her backpack and handed it to Yu. Yu, wipe it off quickly. Don't catch a cold, that would be bad. Ah. Thank you, Xiaoxu. But it doesn't matter, I'm a martial artist, and my body is in great shape. Yu patted his chest with a face full of pride. After taking the bath towel handed by Xiaoxu, he did not wipe himself immediately, but turned around and covered Charmeleon with it. Charmeleon, still dazed, instinctively lifted the towel from its head and looked at Yu with a bewildered expression, a mixture of confusion and touching. Seeing Charmeleon staring at him blankly with bewilderment, Yu smiled brightly, a look of pride on his face. Alright, wipe off those splashes. Otherwise, if you catch a cold, I won't take care of you. While Yu and Charmeleon were chatting, the other Pokémon jumped into the stream, some swimming, some besieging. If anyone was being besieged, it was undoubtedly Gyarados, who had incurred the public's wrath. As for Vulpix, Charmeleon, and Vulpix, they also joined in. After all, while they were fire-type Pokémon, they were merely afraid of water, not completely incapable of it. After all, there weren't many streams, lakes, or oceans on this journey, so the Pokémon certainly wanted to take this opportunity to relax. However, if fire-type Pokémon aren't afraid of water, then why did Yu so recklessly throw himself in front of Charmeleon just now? That's because, unlike other Pokémon, both Charmeleon and Charmander are unique. Even Charizard, its final evolution, has a flying trait in addition to fire. However, one thing remains constant for all of them: if the flame on their tail goes out, it spells death. The splash created by Gyarados wasn't big, but it wasn't small either. While it might not have extinguished Charmeleon's tail flame, Yu didn't want to gamble with Charmeleon's life. It was probably a knee-jerk reaction. Although Yu was usually very strict with his Pokémon during training, he deeply loved them. Especially when they were his own. When Pikachu and the others were in danger, Yu wouldn't rush out to stand in their way without hesitation. Okay, don't just stand there. Go play with them. Today is a rare chance to relax, otherwise I'll start training you all again tomorrow. Yu smiled and touched Charmander's head. Then, without paying any attention to Charmander, who was still a little dazed holding a bath towel, he walked straight towards Gyarados with a dark face. The gentleness he had just shown when talking to Charmander was gone, and his face changed in an instant. Looking at Gyarados, who was having fun in the stream, and then at his soaked clothes, Yu roared, Gyarados. Chapter 371 Play. Gyarados, haven't you been doing it for a long time and your skin is itching again? Yu raged. Hearing this roar, Gyarados' grandson shuddered and subconsciously stopped playing with the other Pokémon. Gyarados wore a smirk and looked ingratiatingly at Yu, who was getting closer and closer. However, although Gyarados stopped because of Yu, the other Pokémon were not about to let it go. Each of them smiled maliciously, and then even the silent Suicune joined in the condemnation of Gyarados. The most exaggerated among them was the cute little Pikachu. He was seen holding a toy water gun that Ditto had transformed into. When Gyarados turned his head to look at Yu, he pulled the trigger and a stream of water sprayed directly at Gyarados' huge head. Bang, 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 swish, swish, swish. Waves poured down from all directions, pelting the massive Gyarados. For a moment, even Gyarados, with its impressive defenses and ample HP, began to falter. This wasn't a Pokémon battle, after all, but simply some casual entertainment between Pokémon. Naturally, when it came to entertainment, Pokemon naturally adhered to the rule of not using skills. Gyarados, this sudden change caused Gyarados to scream in agony, and he looked at Yu, who had already reached the shore with a sullen face, with a look of grievance. If that Gyarados could talk, it would definitely say, "Master, I'm already in such a state, please don't punish me anymore. I didn't mean to. Master, please, I'm already in such a state, please don't punish your most loyal Pokemon, Gyarados." Yu's mouth twitched. Watching Gyarados acting cute once again, he actually felt a legendary pain in his ass. As 10,000 flamingos galloped through his mind, he roared inwardly, "Brother, you're at least one of the top 3 on my team, a formidable presence on the battlefield. Can you please have some integrity now?" Yu shuddered, feeling a bit irritated. Especially when coupled with his own imagination, his stomach churned. If Gyarados doesn't want to be beaten, just put away that expression. It's making me lose my appetite later. However, it would have been better if Yu hadn't said this. At that, Gyarados' eyes lit up again, and he began to think. Since my master has no appetite, can I do the job for him? No way. After all, Xiaoxi's cooking is so delicious, even if it's not Pokemon food. Wow, I'm so smart. Having made up his mind, Gyarados not only didn't put away his pitiful expression, but instead started acting like a spoiled child. He ignored the friends attacking him, and simply ignored the waves crashing against him. This is unbearable. Yu's face darkened even further. He roared and leaped into the water. Pikachu, Suicune, and everyone else, come on. Don't let Gyarados go. Leaping into the stream, Yu's splashing water went straight to Gyarados' head. With Yu leading the charge, the Pikachu's attacks intensified, collectively targeting Gyarados with water. But in the end, it became indiscriminate, splashing everyone they saw. For a moment, the entire creek was filled with laughter and joy, a testament to the harmonious coexistence between humans and Pokemon. It's worth noting that Charmeleon also joined in the fun, but due to its fear of water, it didn't join in the splashing battle, remaining on the shore with Vulpix, and Vulpix. After all, fire-type Pokemon can't stay in the water for too long. Otherwise it's bound to get into trouble. Hey, look at the long-tailed foxes, they're having so much fun, yet. After all, it's been ages since we've had some relaxing fun like this. Now that you mention it, I realize we've been living in the city a lot lately and rarely camping outdoors. Hey, Yu is really something. He hasn't even finished setting up the tent yet, and he's already playing with Pikachu and the others. He's just planning on chopping branches for us tonight. Yu only looks so happy when he's playing with a Pokemon, or battling them. No, Yu seems so happy when he's with us, too. As Yu and his Pokemon were happily playing in the stream, the 3 girls, Xiaoxu and Zhu, had already set up their kitchen utensils not far away on the shore. They watched Yu's activities and started a discussion. The topic always revolved around Yu and his Pokemon. Hey, do you want me to go get Yu and help with the tent? He's all wet now, will he catch a cold? Serena asked with concern. I think we should forget it. Let him play with Pikachu and the others. It's rare for them to relax today, otherwise, they'd probably be training again, Air said, shaking his head. Xiaoxu arranged the ingredients on the table in front of her while chatting with the 2 women. Air is right. Let Yu relax. After all, opportunities like this don't come around often. Let's hurry up and make dinner, we're going to have quite a bit to eat today. Yeah, well, let's not talk about the others. Just look at Yu and Pikachu, they're both big eaters. You've worked really hard. Xiaoxu, Air and Serena then joined in on the dinner preparations, creating a harmonious and joyful atmosphere. After a while, Yu, after playing with a Pokemon, climbed back onto the shore and began setting up his tent. He didn't want to sleep on a tree branch like he used to, feeling so insecure. Although he had mastered the art of sleeping on a tree branch without falling, he still felt a psychological scar. But before that, Yu retrieved the Pokemon egg he'd obtained earlier from his storage space. He gently placed it on the grass, letting it breathe in the air and feel the beauty of nature. Perhaps it would hatch. Seeing Yu take the Pokemon egg out and lay it flat on the grass, Serena and the other 2 Pokemon gathered around curiously. After all, women are naturally endowed with the radiance of motherhood. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 372 Pokémon Twins. A long-tailed fox, do you want to look after this egg? Yu asked with a smile, looking at long-tailed fox, Foxy, and Vulpix, the three Pokémon that had just crawled back to shore after diving. Foxy Vulpix upon hearing Yu's words, the eyes of these three fire-type, all-female Pokémon lit up, especially the egg he had placed on the lawn. Three pairs of eyes stared intently at the egg, with long-tailed fox, the leader, nodding his head with a happy smile, representing the other two Pokémon. You still want to look after the little one inside? Then, okay. I'll leave it to you to take care of it. I still have to go set up the tent. After a moment of contemplation, Yu agreed to the three female Pokémon's request. After leaving the Pokémon egg behind, Yu returned to his task of setting up the tent. And honestly, it's more reassuring to have someone to look after the egg, Yu. While they weren't human but Pokémon, there really wasn't much of a difference. Females were at least more meticulous than males, a fact that held true across all races and even trivial matters. Well, leave the Pokémon egg to the long-tailed fiery fox. I'm relieved now, Yu muttered softly, then threw himself into the work. Fiery fox, wow, is this a Pokémon egg? Longtail, yes, that's a Pokémon egg. We all started out like this, and only took on our current form after hatching. 6. I remember that little buzzbit. When we first met him, he was also a Pokémon egg, right? Longtail, that's right. Every Pokémon egg represents a life. Fiery fox, I'm really looking forward to it. What kind of Pokémon will hatch from this Pokémon egg? The three female Pokémon gathered around the Pokémon egg, discussing it and occasionally touching it, their eyes filled with curiosity. Medio, what are you all doing here? Wow, there's an egg? You're not planning on roasting eggs, are you? A blue figure suddenly squeezed out from between the three Pokémon, and upon seeing the egg in the middle, it exclaimed in surprise. Firefox, hey, Ditto, don't talk nonsense. This is your master's Pokémon egg, Firefox, that's right. If the mistress heard you say that, roasting eggs, you'd probably be roasted right here and there by your master, Medio. Hey, what's the big deal? My master won't understand anything I say. Ditto looked at the Pokémon egg with a nonchalant expression, even pressing his face against it. The moment its soft body touched the Pokémon egg, an identical Pokémon suddenly appeared out of thin air, accompanied by its playful voice. Babyan, haha, let's play a game. Let's see which one is the real Pokémon egg and which one is me. Firefly Longtail 6. The three female Pokémon exclaimed simultaneously upon seeing this scene. However, the exclamations of the three Pokémon didn't attract Yu, but instead attracted Air, who was washing dishes nearby. Hey, what's going on? Why are you all gathered here? Hearing the exclamations, Air thought something had happened and hurried over without even putting down the dishes she was washing. Huh? Isn't this Yu's Pokémon egg? How did it get here? And I remember there was only one. When did it become two? Because of her height, Air's eyes jumped directly to the two eggs in the middle of the three Pokémon. Longtail seeing her master arrive, the long-tailed Firefly wanted to explain what had happened. But she forgot. Her master couldn't understand what she was saying. What's wrong, Air? Serena, who had just placed a dish on the table, rushed over after seeing the commotion. Aren't these Yu's Pokémon eggs? How did they get here? And there are two of them. I don't think there was just one. Serena asked the same question. I don't know. Maybe Yu got them at some point, that's a possibility. But why do these two Pokémon eggs look exactly the same? Could they be the legendary Pokémon twins? Pokémon twins? That's a possibility. It makes me excited. Yeah, me too. I've never seen Pokémon twins in my life. Seeing their masters chatting away, oblivious to the others, as if oblivious to their signs and calls, the Firefox and the long-tailed fox couldn't help but grow anxious. Serena, Air, what are you doing? Come and help me, Xiaoxi's voice echoed from a distance. Hey, I'm here, Air responded, then looked at Serena. Serena, let's go together, okay? Serena nodded, and prepared to leave. Before leaving, she gently patted my fox's head and said, I'll leave the Firefox Pokémon egg in your care. Firefox Serena's gesture calmed the Firefox, and seeing its owner's delicate smile, it could only whisper a response. Serena and Air then returned to their tasks. The three fire Pokémon were left staring at each other, their gaze returning once more to the two Pokémon eggs, trying to determine which one was Ditto's. Clearly, the mischievous Ditto wasn't going to give up so easily. Even during Serena and Air's arrival, it hadn't untransformed. And so it was. This seemingly large area was divided into several zones, each showcasing a different scene and atmosphere. Pokémon were playing by the stream, Yu was setting up a tent on the shore, and Serena, Air, and Xiaoxu were not only preparing dinner for the night, but also preparing food for various Pokémon. Of course, not far away, they were trying to figure out which one was a real Pokémon egg and which one was the three fire-type Pokémon transformed by Ditto. Chapter 373 Transformers. Hey, what's going on? Why is there another Pokémon egg? I thought I only had one. Yu, after finishing his tent work by the stream, approached the three fire-type Pokémon. Seeing the two Pokémon eggs lying quietly among them, he expressed the same confusion as Air and Serena had before. Perhaps because Yu was talking too loudly, or perhaps because he was tired and wanted to find Yu, Charmeleon appeared beside him. Just then, the three fire-type Pokémon, just as before, began to gesticulate and recount the whole story to Yu. But once again, even Yu, despite his prowess, couldn't understand the Pokémon language and looked completely bewildered. Just then, Charmeleon arrived and overheard the three Pokémon's story. Seeing his master's bewildered expression, Charmeleon sighed and, while Yu stared at him with puzzled eyes, quickly approached the two Pokémon eggs. Charmeleon, what are you doing? Ignoring Yu's question, Charmeleon extended its claws and waved them in front of the two Pokémon eggs. Those claws, gleaming white and piercing with a sharp edge, clearly indicated the use of its sharp claws ability. A wisp of white smoke emanated from Charmeleon's nostrils, a threat undisguised. Clearly, having learned the story from the three fire-type Pokémon, Charmeleon was determined to resort to force, simultaneously helping its master resolve his doubts. Hey, Charmeleon, calm down. Those claws of yours are no joke. Let alone a heavy swipe, even a gentle swipe could crack the egg. Unaware of the situation, Yu insisted on stopping them immediately. He didn't want his unhatched Pokémon to die in the egg. Furthermore, Karuna had previously told him that the Pokémon in the egg was of exceptional caliber. Listening to its master's wailing, Charmeleon paused, glanced at Yu, and then resumed its own movements. This time, to increase its intimidation, its gleaming white, icy claws plunged directly into the soil between the two Pokémon eggs. Like cutting tofu, its claws sank into the earth without a single hurdle. Then, it was time to demonstrate its true iron sand palm technique. Its claws plunged into the soil, each rise and fall of its arms raising wisps of sand. Furthermore, its claws drew ever closer to the two Pokémon eggs, as if ready to plunge into them at any moment. Putting aside Yu's current mood, the other three fire Pokémon seemed to have transformed into Charmeleon's little fans, looking at it with admiration. Pikachu, wow, awesome, truly amazing. Charmeleon, when did you learn that iron palm? I have no idea, Pikachu's voice suddenly echoed through the crowd. Pikachu had already squeezed through the encirclement and arrived at Charmeleon's side, clapping excitedly. Also accompanying them was the little creature, Buzzbit, who was also curiously gazing at Charmeleon, the usually diligent and serious senior. Both Pikachu and Buzzbit were still covered in water, clearly having just emerged from the stream. Seeing the excitement, they'd apparently come here for the express purpose. After all, while not a fire-type Pokémon, they weren't a water-type either. Playing in the water was fine, but being constantly submerged would be uncomfortable. Ugh, these guys are just too much, Yu frowned, feeling even more amused at Pikachu's seemingly unconcerned attitude. Because they have relatively few Pokémon, Pikachu and the others, despite their usual playful banter, maintain a very close relationship. While they're close friends, they'll still occasionally clash, but it never really affects their relationship. Take Gyarados, for example. He's the archetypal giant, the Pokémon Pikachu and the others constantly bully. Of course, due to their competitive nature, Charmeleon and Pikachu's relationship is similar to that of Yu and Yulong's Inai. They consider each other rivals. While they're close, they'll certainly tease each other if the opportunity presents itself. Just like what's happening right now, Pikachu taunts Charmeleon with a malicious grin. Ignoring Pikachu's incessant barking, Charmeleon's attention is completely focused on the Pokémon egg. Even at this point, he still hasn't managed to force Ditto to reveal his true form. Charmeleon, while not as fiery as Gyarados, is also known for his impatience. He was also getting a little impatient. Looking at the two Pokemon eggs, a flame flickered at the corners of his mouth. Oh my god. Charmeleon, calm down, calm down. You have to calm down. Impulse is the devil. Put that fire away, Yu thought to himself, a bad omen coming, and rushed forward to stop them. He still didn't understand how Charmeleon had inexplicably acquired an extra Pokemon egg. But as the saying goes, if you don't take advantage of a good thing, you're a fool. This inexplicable Pokemon egg meant he'd get another Pokemon, didn't it? He didn't know whether it was good or bad, but meeting each other was also a kind of fate. Yu had even made up his mind in that short while, since he had limited Pokeballs, he would buy more to capture this Pokemon. Seeing Charmeleon's almost frantic act, Pikachu was startled and cried out in panic. Pikachu, Pikachu, Charmeleon, what are you doing? You're a Pokemon, but you're innocent. Let go of the Pokemon egg and come at me. Unfortunately, before Pikachu and Yu could intervene and separate Charmeleon from the Pokemon egg, a scene that left Yu and Pikachu stunned appeared. What the hell is this? A transformer, Pikachu. A Pokemon egg nestled very close to Charmeleon's claws suddenly began to shake. Then, like a transformer, two arms suddenly extended from the sides of the egg's shell, and two legs appeared from beneath it. Chapter 374 Teardrops. What the hell is this? Even Yu, who could be considered quite knowledgeable, pointed with a trembling finger at the so-called transformer. This wasn't a sign of fear, but excitement. That's right, overflowing with excitement. It wasn't just Yu, Pikachu was the same. The reactions of both man and pet were unanimous. After the initial panic and surprise, Pikachu's previous emotions vanished, leaving only curiosity and excitement at this new thing. The pink electric sacs on his cheeks flickered with excitement. What's wrong? What happened? Yu, what's wrong with you? Hearing the commotion, Xiaoxu dropped the dinner she was preparing and rushed over with Serena and Air. The movements and reactions were so swift, as if they hadn't even finished cooking dinner. Concern crept across the faces of the three women. When they reached Yu's side, seeing that he ignored them, they followed his gaze and the other Pokemon's, only to be met with a startling sight. What is this? A Pokemon? It doesn't look like one to me, it's hard to say. Research reports indicate there are still many unknown Pokemon in the world. Perhaps this is one of those undiscovered species. It looks so familiar to me. Isn't this Yu's Pokemon egg? Air's eyes lit up, but then confusion set in. I don't know what's going on. Hearing Air's question, Yu scratched his hair, a look of confusion on his face. The Transformer Pokemon egg, looking at the Pokemon and people watching it, let out a playful laugh. It scurried around another Pokemon egg lying nearby, but perhaps because it hadn't fully hatched yet, the Transformer egg stumbled and fell from time to time. Yu, Serena, and the other unsuspecting Pokemon watched with a trembling panic, fearing the egg would shatter if it wasn't careful. Compared to the nervousness of Yu, his three daughters, Pikachu, and the recently arrived Buzzbot, Charmeleon appeared much calmer. Instead of retracting its gleaming white claws, it only intensified its aggressiveness. Its clawed hands threatened to snatch at the transformer-like Pokemon egg, but Yu's quick hands stopped it. Then, facing Charmeleon's expression of disbelief and astonishment, Yu reprimanded him for the first time. Charmeleon, what are you doing? Are you rebelling? Can you have a little compassion? You're bullying a Pokemon. You truly disappoint me. Seeing his master's expression of utter disappointment, his struggles faltered. His once energetic face instantly fell, and he stared blankly at Yu, unable to find the words to say. Xiaoxu opened her mouth, wanting to say something, but no words came out. Yu, you're going too far. Charmeleon might have his reasons for doing this. Air felt Yu's words were a bit harsh, at least for a Pokemon. While Charmeleon's actions might have been wrong, it was at least necessary to understand the reasons and the circumstances before making a judgment. Feeling the momentary silence, Serena looked at Charmeleon, then at Yu. Even though she usually sided with Yu, she now felt that Yu might have gone too far. Charmeleon had already lowered his head, which had been locked in gaze with Yu. The angle of his gaze obscured Charmeleon's expression, and even obscured the slight glint in the corner of his eye. Men don't shed tears easily, but only when they're heartbroken. This saying applies not only to boys but also to male Pokemon. And compared to humans, Pokemon are far more resilient. It's almost impossible to say that male Pokémon past their infancy shed tears, and even if they do, they rarely shed more than a handful. Take Charmeleon, for example. Serena and the other two girls saw it cry once when it was still Charmander, abandoned by its original owner. After that, Serena and the other two girls rarely saw it cry. Instead, they witnessed Charmander's hard work and diligence during the period when Charmander evolved into Charmeleon. The tears it shed were no longer drops, but beads of sweat. Even when subjected to insults, disdain, and even abuse from its original owner, Charmeleon, who had never shed tears before, now had two glistening tears in the corners of its eyes from an unseen angle. This gave a glimpse into its current state of mind. Pikachu, because of the angle and the fact that it was already dark, neither Yu nor the other three girls noticed Charmeleon's expression, but Pikachu did. Because of his height, Pikachu glanced up and caught sight of Charmeleon's eyes, hidden in the shadows. Two drops of crystal light shone brightly in the corners of their eyes. Pikachu's first reaction upon seeing this was shock. Was this his rival? He shed blood, not tears. In his training, he was the most diligent Pokémon. The term iron-blooded was perfectly accurate. But now, he was actually shedding tears. His second reaction was an inexplicable feeling. As mentioned earlier, Charmeleon and Pikachu were fierce rivals. During every training session, they were almost always assigned together to compete. Perhaps because of this, Pikachu and Charmeleon had such a strong rapport. It's no exaggeration to say that if Charmeleon and Pikachu were fielded in an amateur doubles match, they would undoubtedly win. After all, they were already familiar with each other, and while they were rivals, they cared about each other. Besides, in Yu's Pokémon team, there was nothing but laughter, and at most, only fighting. If there was a quarrel, they would quickly make up. Pika, sorry, Charmeleon. What's wrong with you? Please, cheer up. This is not like the Charmeleon I know. Chapter 375 Injured. Pika, sorry, Charmeleon. What's wrong? Please, cheer up. This isn't the Charmeleon I know. Pikachu, bewildered, saw Charmeleon weeping and quickly apologized. Then, he pulled out a mobile phone, as if to comfort the distraught Charmeleon. However, Pikachu's lack of comfort would have been fine, but this was like stirring a hornet's nest, and Charmeleon was completely furious. From Pikachu's perspective, Charmeleon forcefully held back the tears, then turned his head to the side. Ignoring Yu's grip, he yanked free and flung him aside. Yu wasn't paying attention, and Charmeleon's hand instantly freed itself. Still dazed, Charmeleon hadn't retracted its claws, continuing to use them even while Yu held it. Therefore, completely caught off guard and with his attention still distracted, the Charizard swung its claws, gliding across Yu's wrist, leaving 3 bloody marks. Ah! Yu, your wrist is bleeding. Serena, who had been keeping an eye on Yu, happened to notice the wound on Yu's wrist and couldn't help but exclaim. Then, she frantically searched her body, trying to find something to help Yu stop the bleeding. Yu, wait a minute. I remember there's a band-aid in the first aid kit. I'll go find it for you now. Xiaoxi's attention was also drawn to Serena's words. When she saw the wound on Yu's wrist, she also ran to look for the first aid kit in her travel bag. Yu simply grinned, unfazed by the two women's seemingly exaggerated behavior. Don't bother. These aren't a problem, they'll heal quickly. Serena's exclamation not only caught Xiaoxi and Air's attention, but also Charmeleon, who had turned his head away. His movements paused involuntarily. Though his head remained lowered, his peripheral vision kept watching Yu, his concern evident. Just as he was about to check on her like Pikachu, Air took the lead. Charmeleon paused, its crimson eyes reflecting Yu's smile as he scratched his head. Then, unnoticed by the others and the Pokémon, Charmeleon bent slightly and quietly walked away. Meanwhile, the women and Pokémon were still frantic over Yu's wrist injury. Air pulled a pink handkerchief from her pocket. Yu's nonchalant tone about her wrist injury had her agitated. Under Yu's startled gaze, Air leaned forward slightly, hands on her waist, and glared at Yu angrily. What are you talking about? You're injured, so why don't you bandage it? Seriously, why are you so stubborn? I'm telling the truth. I've been injured worse than this before, and nothing happened to me. Yu chuckled, his expression still unconcerned. HMPH, I don't care. Just give me your hand. Otherwise, HMPH, you can do whatever you want. Air, at this moment, seemed like a shrewd young lady, completely devoid of her usual gentleness towards Yu, and her attitude was extremely tough. Ugh, it seemed Air's threat had really worked. Yu scratched his hair, a look of confusion on his face. Yes, Air is right. Yu, you have to be obedient and let us bandage your wounds. And that was before. Now you have to listen to us. Serena quickly joined in the persuasion. Looking at the 3 scars on Yu's wrist, Serena felt a pang of pain. As if seeing Yu still intending to refuse, Air put on a sly smile, which made Yu's heart tremble. Hurry up and stretch out your hand. And if you're sick, you need treatment, right, Pikachu? Pika after hearing Air's words. Especially seeing Air's playful wink, the clever Pikachu immediately understood and chirped in agreement as Air finished speaking. As if feeling that this wasn't enough of a deterrent, that his words didn't carry enough weight with his master, Pikachu's adorable face, so charming to so many girls, once again flickered and pulsed with pink electric sacs. It looked as if it would unleash 100,000 volts of electricity if Yu dared to say no. He glanced at the 3 scratches on his hand from Charmeleon's claws, then at Air, Serena, and Pikachu, who were standing so firmly. Yu finally yielded to their tyranny and obediently held out his hand to Air. Right, that's good, Air smiled, a smile that could melt the winter snow. Serena, don't just stand there. Come over and help treat the wound. Don't let it get infected, that would be troublesome. It's out in the middle of nowhere, and there's no telling where there's a Pokémon Center. Oh, Serena bit her lip lightly, her gaze shifting between Air and Yu with a complex expression. Upon hearing Air's call, she quickly composed herself. Just then, Xiaoxia returned with the first aid kit, and the 3 women began tending to Yu's wound. The 3 girls worked together and treated the 3 small wounds very quickly. Looking at her masterpiece on Yu's wrist, Air couldn't help but chuckle. How about Yu? Isn't my bandage very beautiful? Selina and Xiaoxia on the side also covered their mouths and chuckled. Up I say, all the beautiful girls. I am a man after all, but what are these bows of yours? This is too inconsistent with my temperament. Yu looked at the bow on his wrist a little crazy. He was speechless in his heart, but he was also glad that there were no other acquaintances of his, otherwise where would he put his face? Huh? What's wrong with the bow? The bow is so beautiful and can also increase your appearance. It may be rare. Air showed its Sundeer look. Is that Sundeer attribute activated? End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.